Hello and welcome to the very first episode, I guess, of our Smite Patch Notes series. This is Smite Patch Notes 4.13, Summer of Smite 2017. My name is Justin Fleming. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter as at Stone Claymore. There'll be a link in the description. And joining me is Nick Herbert Nixion. Um,
Hello.
yeah, so Nick, I've not looked at the patch notes. I don't know. I know nothing. So Nick, run me through. Like, what are we talking about? What's going on?
All right, so this one is huge. This is the mid-season, basically at the end of the summer split, trying to make the major changes to prep for the later half of the esports season for Worlds, stuff like that. They took a light
Cool.
last patch because of DreamHack Valencia, so this patch is really content heavy, massive changes in basically all elements of the game. We're looking at like major graphical updates,
Snap.
improvements to just the game engine, as well as new just features, things they're trying to add to the game, and then we're going to be looking at a lot of item and god balance changes, new items being introduced, as well as pretty important map changes.
So to give you a little bit of context, this we're not going to be talking about skins, maybe in the future, but the main point of this is for us to discuss system changes and a lot of things from a game design perspective. Both Nick and I come from a game design background. We study it and we practice it, so this is kind of our bread and butter. So if you're looking for skins and very all the aesthetic and surface level stuff, this is kind of the wrong patch notes for you. But if you're interested in just the way the game works underneath all the layers, then you might learn something interesting.
Alrighty,
Yeah,
so
let's go.
Project Olympus. Uh, this is a bunch of stuff that they're trying to do with the engine,
Okay.
basically. And it's just graphical stuff. I'm not entirely tech savvy, but
Right.
DirectX 11 is something that they're allowing people to try out. It's something that you can go into your settings and turn on.
Okay.
And basically, the idea is just improving graphical performance, but at the cost of increased memory usage.
Right.
Um, some really cool stuff, though, in the graphical department. High resolution texture pack that you can download and use. Um, if
Ooh.
you want, we're going to link the patch notes in the description. They have an image with the texture pack versus without the texture pack. It's not major, but if you just look at a lot of the things on the map, it like cleans up a lot of the lines. Just purely aesthetic.
Yeah,
Some
even
things that
I'm
are
just trying to open it right now and it's like taking forever to even just render the screenshot. Um
yeah,
yeah,
in looking at it, you'll have to like just pick a very specific thing that you want to look at, flipping back and forth between the images to really see a difference. But like if your system can run it, you might as well do it.
yeah, there's really nothing to lose. Um it is a significant difference. Things are cleaner. It's not
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter, like, but it is nice, like
yeah,
sharper
it's the
and
very refined things that
yeah,
small little bits that look cleaner.
that's cool.
Resolution scaling, something that they add in. It's just like a little slider and in the settings.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't really do anything on the lower end. I mean, you could drop your resolution, duh. But if you bump it up to the higher end, you can have it basically functioning at a higher resolution than your display can handle. It's
Right.
something that they're calling like super sampling, which basically just makes it look things look a lot better in motion and gives more fine grained
Right. Right.
detail. Um,
Cool.
Something that my computer won't be able to handle. What is really interesting and looks really nice is this parallax occlusion mapping. It's also going to be on console as well. And it's just
Okay.
something that basically creates the illusion of depth on a lot of things. Like if you're walking along the middle of the map, I saw it in the patch notes. The bricks that make up the pathway on the lane, you actually see depth and they go down, like as if there's cracks in between them.
Whoa, that's
So
cool.
it actually like yeah, actually brings some life to the map instead of
Yeah,
looking super flat.
Smite has always been very like uh flat and lots of like hard faces and angles. So that's really nice to kind of see that changing.
And this is only going to be applied uh, first on Conquest and Joust, and it
Okay.
may get introduced later. Um,
But who plays
which
Siege, right?
yeah, okay, you joke, but there's actually a bunch of changes with the Siege game mode that we'll have to go over later.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, they're trying to save that sad existence of a game mode, and some matchmaking changes they made will also help with it. Um,
Sweet.
and then 64-bit client.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what that'll really do for you, I don't know, but it's there. Um,
Yeah.
tech stuff, what do I know?
We're designers. What's a
So,
computer?
the just download more RAM.
uh,
So the next big thing that's pretty awesome is prestige levels.
right.
So finally, like, cause you can hit 30 in if you grind the game in like a month,
Yeah.
and so now it caps at 160.
Okay.
And if you look at this, they have a list of 8 different prestige levels
Nice.
that you can hit. I don't know if they have. I mean, it just says
Follower,
okay,
acolyte.
avatar border.
Oh, an avatar border.
Yeah,
Cool. So the different levels are the first prestige is follower, which is when you get past 30. Then it goes acolyte, elder, ethereal, divine, immortal, godlike, and ultimate. Um, so that's
those go up
sounds
every
pretty
20
cool.
levels, except
Ye-
godlike and ultimate is only 9 levels apart.
yeah.
And it you don't have to worry like if you're level 30 now, you're not going to have to start climbing from level 30. They've actually been tracking your experience gain even though they haven't showed you it. So
Oh,
Hi-rez
interesting.
knows and they'll actually be able to give you your true level. So like on Xbox there's a chance I might just be 160.
Huh.
Um
That's actually really cool. Because I was
yeah.
just thinking like that's gonna be really weird to see everyone kind of rush to 160 and like have that like weird like the level cap raised and now it's who gets there first. Um, kind of
Nope,
weird.
you actually get rewarded for the time you've invested already, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Which hopefully that then means reaching 160 is actually incredibly hard, and I hope that I haven't done that on Xbox yet, so I can
Hmm.
actually, have something to work for.
Yeah.
Um, next big thing to go to is Wisdom tab updates. You may not even know that there's a tab on PC called Wisdom,
I do know about it. I
but there's
like
almost nothing on there.
exactly. I feel like I clicked on it once and I was like I'm gonna just ask Nick things cuz this doesn't help at all.
Yeah, it did nothing, and I think they're renaming it to like learning or something. They said they're renaming it to something that actually implies that you go there to learn things.
Yeah, it is kind of like in the context of all those tabs, like it's the only one that's thematic. So like why it just doesn't make much sense.
Yeah. And so they're gonna have like all new gameplay tutorial videos going from the most basic things to more complex things.
Ooh, that's cool.
This is absolutely needed. I mean, watching new players run around because the tutorial tells them to buy meditation on Neath is
Yeah,
terrible.
but I mean, it is Hi-rez that made the tutorial that tells them to buy meditation on Neath. So I mean, I would like to know who's making these videos, cause
I'm hoping because they have hired people from the competitive scene, Pon Pon, Peckies.
mm-hmm,
Um, I hope those guys are playing somewhat of a part in these tutorials and
yeah,
deciding what's really important, and as well as Ajax is. I mean, not only is he head designer, but he's also very knowledgeable. I mean, I think he is a master's jouster, so like he understands the game very well, and hopefully
right, right,
like made sure that this actually communicates to players what they should be doing. I
yeah,
mean, it doesn't have to be the most meta thing, but like a lot of the tutorialing doesn't even get across some of the most important things.
right.
Triumphant chess.
This sounds cool.
Yeah. So it's kind of just like it. So their thing is it doesn't replace first one of the day or daily login, but it's
Okay,
winning games gets you chests, and the more chests you unlock, the better chests you get. Um,
all right.
and basically you can just move up and get higher and higher tiers of chests. They're mostly gonna give you garbage, but like maybe with the godlike chest, you could get a chance of getting something good.
Sure.
And it's basically just rewarding you with more content for playing,
Yeah,
something that Smite kind of lacks.
yeah, more incentive. Like
Yeah,
I feel like maybe it was like a year ago now, or even longer. Like League of Legends launched their like crafting system, um, which just makes it easier for you to just keep playing. Like if you get an S rank on a character, I think each month or something, you like get a key and you can get like chests. I don't remember specifically how it works, but you get chests and key fragments and you craft a key and then you open the chest and then you can get like skins and like characters you've not unlocked yet and then like cash them in to actually get those characters or skins. It's pretty cool. It's like really long and arduous, but it's just like something to do. Um,
that's awesome though, because
yeah,
Smite basically the only thing you really get rewarded for playing, except for during special events, is favor, which gets you almost nothing.
it gets you like I think on both like Xbox and PC, I have just like so much favor that I just don't use like
Yeah, mastery skins is basically it.
thousands. Yeah,
And I mean, daily login is nice with the little bits of gems, but that doesn't really get you much. And especially because a lot of these newer skins coming out, they've had a problem with recently. They stopped giving, like, allowing you to directly buy. And
yeah,
they've
yeah.
started to make a push to bring that back. And they, like, even made note, like, at the end of patch notes, they kind of go over which skins you could directly buy and which ones you couldn't.
That's I like that. I was feeling that for a while. Like any skin I was interested in at all. Like even
Yeah,
yeah, there were just a lot of exclusive
the
skins.
shit ones were the only ones you could direct buy.
Yeah,
Um, Bug fixes, nothing super important. Like Kukulkan had description errors, and um, there was this thing with like players will be able to see all game mode queues when selecting normal queue types.
mm-hmm.
Hang on, let me double check through here real quick. Did they actually make mention? All right, it might be mentioned later, but it's really important to. I want to talk about this now.
Uh-huh.
You can now queue for multiple game modes at the same time,
Huh.
and what it will do is it will just pop the queue for the best match that it can find you. And I think the reason for doing this, it's actually a pretty smart solution. So Smite doesn't have the player base of League of Legends, and it kind of affects the
No.
matchmaking because the game can't always give you enough players in a reasonable amount of time to have a fair balanced match.
Yeah.
And that really hurts game modes. Siege is the one that hurts the most. It's usually a stomp one way or the other because
Yeah,
the matches are
seriously.
super unfair. But if you're queued for Siege and a bunch of other things, that could basically they're trying to push more people into game modes like Siege, and that
Mm-hmm.
way they could have a larger player pool and that to get better matches.
Interesting. Because I thought
Um,
at first when you said that it was like um it's for faster queue times, like whichever game you get first of that mode, it just puts you in. But that's interesting. It's
yeah,
not
because I mean
for
Smite
speed.
already had pretty quick queue times,
Yeah, it definitely
but the
like
problem was it was sacrificing match quality for that.
exactly. Which like this is kind of a digression, but like we like in comparison, we've seen I feel like lately with Project Health in Rainbow Six, um, we recently saw an update where all the queue times were severely shortened. Um, but I've gotten the impression that the match quality has decreased as well. Maybe it's just a misconception. Maybe it's just because we're getting through more matches
I
quickly, and
think it is.
yeah, I don't know.
I say that because the game I don't think has ever had skill-based matchmaking.
Oh, true.
So they might. I think there's. I mean, people have had talks of introducing that to Rainbow Six for a long time, but and I think it would honestly be worth it because
I think so too.
as a good player, I get very frustrated when I'm getting barricaded out of objectives on defense, and my teammates are just doing things that cause me to lose.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, this has turned into a bit of a tangent, but
Yes, let's get back to Smite.
basically better match quality. Um,
That's really good.
So bouncing back to bug fixes, there's only one of them that's really important, and that's fixed an issue where God walking effects could be seen through Fog of War. Basically, the jungle fog
Right,
revealed anyone, and they have actually made changes to the conquest map in the past to like help deal with this,
right.
because they had to like changed lines of sight so you can't see when people are doing different buffs.
Uh huh.
Now this basically just makes the jungle more of a true jungle, thankfully. But there are actually certain gods that will hurt. Like that will hurt a Mercury.
Uh huh.
You could charge a Mercury ult and know that you're gonna nail three people with it because you can see their feet.
Right.
Like you could see the glowing raw aura underneath his feet. It's very
Or like
obvious.
freaking Toth's like runes.
Yeah, you could see all that stuff. And
Right.
so by yeah, that's it's gonna certainly affect a whole handful of gods,
Hmm. Yeah,
especially
and
for just jungler awareness. And it
yeah.
also makes it so that junglers can gank without being spotted. Like a solo laner can't peek a crack and see a jungler's foot movements.
Yeah, that's a really like minor change, but it'll be interesting how the kind of dynamics shift because of that. Like, um, people are gonna have to adjust, like you said, their awareness and like how they pay attention in lane, and communication and warding is probably gonna have to be much better. Um, I'm intrigued to see how that plays out. Like, I feel like you can't really tell everything that will change on paper, just because it's so universal. Um, that is interesting, though.
Yeah, I mean it's small, but like there are certain lines of sight. Like in the duo lane, you could see if you're looking, you're standing, kind of in the lane, but near the purple buff area. There's a long line of sight that looks all the way back towards like back harpies
Yeah,
and red buff area.
yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
seeing ganks incoming like that, or that's basically going to be not really an issue anymore. Junglers don't
Yeah,
have to worry about making sure they're like dipping behind walls as they approach.
yeah. It's kind of, if anything, it's just kind of like better quality of life for the jungle. Like,
Yep,
it just
it's
makes it a more
definitely just
enjoyable
a nice quality
experience.
of life change.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So that kind of transitions well into map changes. Um, with Conquest, it's huge meta shifting is really what they're going for.
Hmm.
So before we start this, I think it's important to just mention like the current state of the meta because of the way the map is.
Right.
So all the minions start spawning at the same point in time, and the result of that is that the mid lane, because it's shorter, the minions meet first. And the mid
Right.
lane also has the highest amount of clear. So if the mid and the jungle clear the wave, then they have control to rotate to wherever they want and start invading. Um, so by making that makes it so snowballing is a lot more relevant, and a lot of the camps around the map are just worth a significant amount of gold. So getting that invade and then being able to like say you out pressure a mid, you can go kill the fire elementals and get a lead there, and then you can go invade their speed,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're really ahead, and then you can just keep pressuring their jungle and taking their jungle that's worth too much XP,
Yeah,
and
and
you just snowball like crazy. Then you force the Gold Fury, and they either all die or you take it.
yeah,
And so these snowball comps have become really prominent. I mean, the game's not as focused on clear, but it was super clear heavy for most of the season.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they've started to make a move away from that. Um, so that being said, now looking over here, well, I guess the first change is a global audio cue to indicate when the Gold Fury and Fire Giant have been defeated.
I like that. That's really nice.
Yeah, that's really good for casuals.
Yeah. Um,
It's like,
like when you're queuing and you don't have communication with people, like, yes, please. That is so good.
yeah, because a lot of times you're just like, oh, that's gone.
Yeah,
Okay. And obviously, at a high level of play, you're gonna know when the other team's doing that.
yeah, for
But
sure.
even at a high level, if you're say playing Toth or Vulcan and you know the other team's doing it and you're trying to get over to just be able to hit it with an ult,
Yeah,
you like you'll even see it in pro play. They'll wind up using their ultimate not knowing that it was killed 1 or 2 seconds earlier.
yeah, and the night like, it's just another really nice quality of life change. Like it wasn't necessarily needed, and like they didn't have to go out of their way to make it happen. They probably had the code, and it probably wasn't hard to make happen, frankly. But it's nice that they did it. Like they didn't have to, but it's nice, and I think that's really cool. That I don't know what the rest of the patch notes entails. We're like a quarter of the way through, if even, and like not even, but like if that's kind of the flavor of some of the things going on, that's really nice that they're just trying to make the experience better.
Yeah, it's casual friendly. Like it actually does take away a little bit of a strategic element, but overall I think it's just worth it for a better play experience.
Yeah.
So this one's huge, the next change. All lane minions now meet at 30 seconds. This means mid clear and mid pressure on the jungles is not as dominant.
Yeah.
Um, so now clearing is not as important, which means early game mid jungles
Hmm.
is not as important. And that's reinforced by the first brute minion that normally spawns on the second minion wave. Now it doesn't spawn until the third minion wave, which again makes it so that clearing the early game
Mm-hmm.
is now just like you don't need as strong of clear to effectively clear the lane.
Now, does that mean we're probably going to see a shift back to similar to like season 3 where you had these like jungle starts that then moved into the lanes, or
No, because of the timers in which the jungles are spawning.
okay.
Before the jungles would spawn right away, and now the jungles spawn when the lanes meet.
Okay.
So, I mean, if anything, it would probably be like maybe, but I'd have to see how it kind of works out. Because currently, right now with the meta, you have your hunter and your support starting at the red, then going the purple, so they can fight in lane at level 2.
Uh-huh.
Because, like, even if the other team goes to lane first and then tries to go to their buffs, they may get invaded by a level 2 team because the other
Right.
team did their buffs, went to the
Right.
lane, cleared the wave faster because they're level 2, and went and took the fight. Whereas they
Right.
would be fighting those jungle camps at level 1 still, as the other team did. So that's what they're doing. I mean, we could see something with mid jungle doing that, but I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of reinforce that like reduction of snowball, they just if you're looking at this, they reduce the XP reward for a shit ton of things if you want to read
Yeah,
them all
and
off.
and even like fire elementals now reward less XP but have like 50%, not even like 60% more health. Um, the Elder Fire Elemental gives less XP. The Oracle, well, actually going back to the Fire Elementals, I mean it's probably harder to steal just the side creeps so easily because they've
Yeah,
only increased the side creeps health, not the big one.
the Elder
Um,
Fire Elemental, the one beneath that's the oh you said the health. Yeah, you're right.
yeah. But then they also decreased the XP rewards from the Oracles, which are the kind of sentry harpies that are by the Gold Fury. Um, the mini Cyclops has more health. It looks like a lot of side creeps are getting health buffs. Um,
Yeah, that's just the mini Cyclops are the guys on the side camps of buff camps.
yeah, and mid harpies are now more valuable, which is
Yep.
very interesting. Not
Yeah,
not by
they
much,
took a hit.
but it's something. Uh,
So going into mid harpies real quick.
yeah.
At the start of the season, the mid harpies got the big harpies out of all the harpies got their XP and gold rewards reduced,
Mm-hmm.
making back camps actually like more valuable than mids, where previously it was
Interesting.
always like the mid laners would clear the mids, the mid jungle would like clear mid lane and then fight over the mid camps. It would
Yeah.
create this contention, but now it's just like it's not even worth it. They just kill the wave, go to the elementals, go steal your shit from your jungle. Now it actually gives a reason to not be invading all the time
Yeah.
by reducing the value of invading stuff and adding health to these things, making it harder to do that. So it's better to
Hmm.
go for the mid harpies.
Yeah, and I think that makes it more interesting. Like the it puts the team closer together. It allows people to rotate more easily, and like it's not like you're in duo lane and then your jungle and mid are like deep in their mid lane. Like it's easier to
Yeah,
just coordinate things like that and keeps people in a more concentrated area and has a more determined like front line of the fight. Um, which I like
and
that change.
it's fun too. Like
Yeah.
the fact that in the early game you're actually fighting over these camps instead of just like I'll walk to your speed as you walk to mine. Okay, like
This is
you're
interesting.
actually contending.
I'm starting to read ahead now. Um, the tower adjustments. Um, like there is a lot here that is
Yeah.
significant. Um, So to kind of give you the rundown, if you're not looking at the patch notes yourself, they've increased the health of the tier 2 towers from 2,000 to 2,500. They've increased the health of phoenixes from 2,000 to 3,000. And they've increased the respawn health of the phoenix from 5% to 25%, as well as increased the max health when a phoenix respawns from 40% to 70%. So it seems like we're like structures are much stronger now, health wise,
Yep.
um, which should see, particularly with this change to phoenixes, it makes it easier to make a comeback after getting kind of beaten into the dirt. Um, but I'm really interested to see how the pace of the game changes. With
It's going late game.
yeah, it really is. Um, they are really
The
pushing for that.
and the reason I said that is not only like this also slows down Snowball, and one
Yeah,
huge change that we missed is the XP decrease from Gold Fury.
yeah,
It is halved. Like the XP from Gold Fury is half of what it was.
yeah,
And so like Gold Fury was kind of the prize that you get off of your Snowball.
yeah. To then snowball further.
Yeah, and so with that reduced, like reduced values of what you get if you do invade and making invading harder, and it's basically just making a lot more value on just farming up lanes.
Yeah,
And then you add all of this extra health and just ability for structures to stay up, and you're looking at just a much later game.
yeah. And I wonder if honestly, like a snowball meta is just kind of it can be really frustrating. It's satisfying when you pull off the snowball, but if someone snowballs against you, it's just kind of disheartening. Um, I'm wondering, but the thing is, that's kind of interesting is a snowball is really interesting to watch as a viewer.
I disagree.
You don't think so?
I don't like watching one game where one team has 20 kills to 0, and then the next game it's the reverse and the other team has 20 kills to 0.
Right.
It's hard to get a close match out of it,
I'd agree with that actually.
and comebacks don't really come out of it.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. So maybe the games have a lot of action, but they're not necessarily as dramatic.
yeah, there's a lot of the team that is winning is really pushing fights hard.
Yeah, and then I take back what I said, given that. But it is interesting, like people turtling up and farming for a while. It'll definitely
Yeah.
be more about like the individual players
Yeah, it's not going
match
to
up
be
for a
as
while.
fun to watch during like the mid game.
Yeah. Um, but I think yeah, based on that, like closer matches and just that, I feel like that intensity, that tension, will be retained longer, and just the payoff of like some big event happening that turns the game either way is a little more interesting because there's more time for that to build. Like you have
Yeah.
more time to just anticipate like, oh, who's gonna make the play that
Yeah,
snowballs into
I
the end.
mean, if the both teams are incredibly powerful, winning a team fight in the late game, a team that's getting their shit rocked the whole game can make a massive comeback, take
Oh yeah,
fire, push down all these structures, and be right back in the game.
for sure.
And later, when we look at God and item changes, there's more stuff that actually reinforces the potential of a late game meta.
Hmm. Interesting.
Siege
Segus.
removed from the game. I'm just kidding. I wish.
Same. Dude, I got so excited for a sec. You have no idea. Uh,
uh, so yeah, they made the performance of the map better by changing the foliage and trees.
is that
Um,
most of it? Oh no, there's some mechanical stuff.
no, there's a lot more important stuff.
Okay, cool.
Pre-game timer makes it so you're not flicking your ass for half an hour. That's fun. They reduced it from 90 seconds to 60 seconds. I have no idea why it was ever 90 seconds.
Yeah, that doesn't
The
make
amount
any
of
sense.
time, like, I mean, it was, I guess, good for hiking across the map to invade because that's all I ever did on Siege was blink
Mm-hmm.
invade, four-man blink.
Yeah.
Um, and this map also just had horrible snowball because you get a Siege Juggernaut and then you just
Ooh,
push with
they
it and then
added a
you get more.
movement speed buff.
Yeah.
I
Well,
like that.
reason I like that is because this purple buff is not the same purple buff in Conquest. It's the old attack speed purple buff.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
So adding in, and what's nice is the movement speed buff. Yeah, like the map's too big, so
Yeah,
that helps with that.
it takes so long to gank or just to even move lanes. Like,
Yeah, and there's no clean, like you have to zigzag through the jungle.
yeah, it's the pathing is not ideal.
So yeah, those are cool. The fact that you get golden XP from killing a Juggernaut basically prevents really bad snowball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
that's good.
and they increased the health on the Wild Juggernaut. It was incredibly easy as any sort of physical character to solo that thing.
Oh, I remember like when I first started playing the game, like I would just go into Siege as Artemis and just shred Juggernauts, like with because of her attack steroid, and like
Yeah,
I was trash at the game at the time, and so the people I played with were and against were trash for the most part. So like it was just stupid to just kind of abuse this like ability to just take the Juggernaut so easily by myself.
yeah, just walk up, solo it, and walk away.
Yeah,
And if you just catch the other team backing, it's free
yeah,
because the map's too big to for them to even get out there.
yeah. There's nothing they can do about it once you start it.
Okay, and then you other these
Other, so
yeah,
excited.
this is actually bigger than Siege because
Really?
they changed the amount of XP that you get off of golden XP that you get off of Clash and Joust minions. Well, okay, decreased XP for Clash, decreased gold for Joust.
Right.
Um, I really like the change to Joust because you'd be like level 14 with a full build.
Yeah, that is really good.
And so item dependent characters were really strong. Your Hobwas are just walking around one-shotting everyone really early.
Yeah, and Artemis is like way more viable, and like I'm kind of thinking of this in kind of more of a hunter context, but like yeah, you get your
Who ye's dumpstering people.
yeah seriously like you can get your transcendences faster and then just get into other more important items, more expensive builds. That'll be really
Yep.
interesting to
Crit
see.
comes online sooner.
So fast, yeah, it really makes a difference.
And then Clash decreased XP. I'm that's curious. I'm guessing that they actually just wanted levels and gold to be
Well,
more in line.
I've
I'm
always kind of felt with Clash that you like I feel
hit
like a
level
hit
20 too
level
fast.
just yeah even just like a hit level 5 too fast like by the second wave I'm like oh I have ult now like
Yeah.
it's just like it's the pacing is very fast and that like sometimes that's nice but other times it's just kind of feels like an insane like breakneck pace.
Well, and if you're really on top of it, like you could just kind of be that guy that like I am, where anytime a lane is left alone, I go over there for the
Oh
solo
yeah,
farm, and
dude,
then I'll go back and leash off of the other one, and I'll just be way ahead of everyone in the game for doing nothing.
that's how I get 5 minute clash wins with freaking raw. Is I just go back and forth clearing wave, and then I get my ult,
Yeah,
and just like
you just drop the beam on one wave, go drop the heal on the other.
exactly,
Oh shit, I'm not gonna make it to that wave. Ult.
yeah, and then you're like, oh hey, look, I hit Artemis at the same time. That's handy. Like, so I'm kind of laughing to myself because I see the next subject, which is new items, and the first thing it says is Hasten Fatalis, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, with a new icon
Under new
to add.
items it says Hasten Fatalis, and I was like, oh yeah, new icon, and then it's got this huge description, and it's only like thing now it just says removed from game. So I
Yeah,
don't. Maybe you want to
yeah.
segue
I
into
want to
this.
talk about what they've done to this. So Fatalis was always an item that like the passive was really strong, but it never had enough statistics for its price to back up buying it. Except for characters that absolutely needed it, like Kali and Freya, and it still wasn't that strong of an item. So they buffed the item. They added penetration to it at the start of the season, and increased its cost. And the idea behind that was just to make it more valuable. It was a weak item, but the gods that needed it still bought it, and so they wanted it to actually be a strong item for the gods that needed it. But what wound up
Right.
happening was they wanted like your Kali, your Bakasura, your Freya to be able to make better use of it, But what happens is the hunters just started abusing the hell out of it.
Yeah.
So this was kind of this needed to happen.
And I like to kind of preface this, I play hunters for the most part, and I've always kind of just not liked the item. I've never really found it interesting. I think it's just kind of a boring interaction to just be faster. I don't know. And I never wanted to buy it because I felt like, well, I can already hit my auto attacks, and I just rather have something that gives me more power or more damage to just do more than be able to just kite someone or like I don't
To
know.
just walk them down.
Yeah,
Just
it's
start
it's
walking at a tank and not let them get away.
yeah, and it's always just been my personal preference just kill them quicker as opposed to have more time to kill them. But like it just makes my it like lowers the cost of my decisions to like not have to be like but maybe I should build Fatalis. Um, so okay, I'm reading this more. So did they divide it into two different items?
Yes.
Okay,
So it's no longer that effect is not available for hunters anymore. For ranged physical characters, so that's just hunters. But
I am very okay with that.
they made hastened katana, which
Mm-hmm.
is basically just fatalis for assassins and warriors.
Right.
But what's good about this is they can make it now stronger for those characters that needed it. So they
Yeah,
actually have 25 physical power on it. It's the
that's
same
really cool.
cost, same movement speed, same attack speed, same passive. Doesn't have the 10 penetration, but has 25 physical power.
Yeah,
And it builds off of the like Heartseeker, Masamune, Stonecutting Sword tree.
yeah.
And that's just basically, I guess, a slight buff to like Kali Bakasura,
Sure.
I guess. I mean, not really Bakasura actually. That the lack of
I would
no,
have
it's actually probably
thought
better. No, it's yeah, because he has flat damage that is true
true.
damage on his butcher blade, so like penetration doesn't really help him either. So I guess the 25 power it doesn't. It's fairly neutral for him.
Sure. But it makes them more valid picks. Like I don't know. It just this is awesome. I don't really know how to how to
Yeah, I'm
articulate
really
this.
excited to just pick it up and play with it on Kali.
Yeah, like it and I really like that the only thing they removed it from is hunters. Like I think mages like Kronos and Soul and Freya like benefit greatly, and it's cheaper. That it costs 2,300 for mages. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I don't like the 2400 price tag for assassins.
Uh huh.
That's the same price that Fatalis was. That was kind of pricey. They hiked the price up um, when after they added the penetration, it was too good. Hunters were abusing it, so their solution was to nerf the cost, which just hurt assassins more. And they haven't brought it back down, but they
Wasn't
really
it
haven't
at
changed it
like
statistically either.
2,600 at a point?
No, it's 2400 for I'm pretty sure for full Fatalis right now.
Huh.
Could
Did
be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
maybe I want to check that. I don't. I'm con. Whoa.
Because like your your physical items are generally cheaper than your magical. Your expensive physicals.
Yeah. Um. Total
But
cost.
like it's 2700 for like a
It's
Shinsai.
2,600 right now.
Oh,
So they
2600. God
they
damn,
lowered
so it
it by
must have
200.
been 2400. Okay, so that's probably what it was before. Take that back.
Yeah. I thought I remember that. So they're lowering it by 200 for physicals, and then they're making it 2,300 for mages.
Yep. And mages. So mages have hastened ring. Um,
Yep.
it doesn't work quite the same because it grants landing that basic attack gives you haste for 4 seconds, but it only happens once every 30 seconds.
Oh, interesting.
So
It's kind of like
you
another
kind of have
ability.
to pick when you want to fight with it.
Yeah.
The trade-off for that though is the fact that although you don't get the passive all the time, it's 50 magical power. Like that's big power.
Yeah.
But the movement speed is also 3% less. That should be noted. Not that big of a
Mm-hmm.
deal. Um,
They are ranged, so I think that's fair.
yeah. So as like now it says in the description, Soul Chronos. Those characters don't make use of, didn't even make use of Hasten Fatalis anymore.
Yeah, it uh Soul had just become kind of a mid lane mage.
Yeah,
Um,
same with Chronos. I mean, Chronos had been getting pulled out in the duo lane, but he was still being built like a mid out of
yeah,
that
and
lane.
the only magical character I was building Fatalis on was Freya. Um, which this is a
Yeah.
really good buff for her because she really needs that ability to just walk someone down. Well,
Yes,
a nerf also
it
because
is.
it's got the cooldown though.
Yeah, and well, she also has a kind of an easier time for deciding when she wants to take that fight with her um
Sure.
Fatalis effect because she doesn't always have the ranged attacks where like a Chronos could accidentally proc that all the time.
Right.
For her, it's a lot easier to decide. But she
Right.
also
Right.
loses that 10 flat penetration, which is really handy for her in the early game
Yeah.
after picking up pin boots. Because like before it was like, do we go with pin boots for the power and pin or Fatalis to get more gumballs off,
Mm-hmm.
but have them hit for a little less when the pin came in. A lot of people, definitely rush the Fatalis first.
Right.
Freya's build is going to be very interesting. There's more item changes where we can come back to a Freya build because it has
Yeah.
me kind of wondering about where she's going to sit, especially with the fact that things are getting pushed towards late game.
Yeah. For sure.
So now hunters are getting a Fatalis style item.
Okay.
Um, Hunter's bow is going to build off of short bow, which is like step one of a Kaival, Odysseus' bow, Silver
Mm-hmm.
Branch, that stuff. Um, and it builds into Atalantis' bow, and it's got for 2,300 gold. That's, I mean, that's a decent price tag still. 30
Yeah.
physical power and 20% attack speed.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically stacked to Kaival's power with 10% less attack speed and no penetration for
Mm-hmm.
600 more gold. And it doesn't have the power steal. So you're
Hmm.
giving up a lot for this. But the
You
passive
are.
is hitting basic attacks increase your movement speed by 7% per stack up to 4 stacks, and stacks last for 2 seconds.
Wow, that's pretty potent.
Okay, but here's the way to look at it.
Well,
The
yeah. So
basic
it.
attack movement penalty is 40%. This only goes up to 28%. So this is still 12% slower than Fatalis when fully stacked.
Okay.
And it
So
also doesn't provide movement speed like Fatalis did.
right. Well, I mean, it does. It does in a way with the passive, but yeah, not as a direct stat.
Right, but that's just trying to supplement for the basic attack movement speed penalty.
Right.
Um, I don't necessarily like this item. I don't think it's that good of an item.
Yeah. I mean, like, the thing is, this is for people who value this. Like, to me and you, this isn't a good deal. Like, I would rather, like you were saying, like, it doesn't have the penetration of a Kaival or the power steal. Like, the that to us is far more valuable than this ability to try and chase someone down a little bit easier. But like, there are a lot of players who rely on this and who think this is really good or really want to be able to do this. Um, I don't think we'll see this at a pro level or in a meta. Maybe some weird freak builds use it, but like, I don't see it becoming a staple hunter build item, and I'm okay with that.
Where I think it might have a place, because lasting for 2 seconds, that could actually be hard to keep that fully stacked. And so where I see this as valuable is characters that have really high attack speeds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like an Artemis, this could potentially, be something that you'd want to run it on.
And
But also
even
characters with wider attacks that can keep it stacked by not missing as much. Or
right,
Cernunos, who can melee you from point blank.
yeah. The interesting thing you bringing up Artemis is her steroid gives her movement speed in the first place. Uh,
Yeah.
so
So
that's
it could function almost like Fatalis when fully stacked, is what it would feel
yeah,
like.
that's very interesting.
Is it worth? I don't know. I mean, even a Rom could make decent use of it with his 2, giving him
Yeah.
the increased attack speed to make sure he keeps those stacks up, as well as the ability to slow people,
Mm.
and giving him the movement speed. His sticking potential would be really high, and the ability to slow would also make it so he's more likely to keep those stacks up.
Well, I wonder if then we'd see this in a build with like Frostbound Runeforge.
hold that.
Okay.
Um, so let's just move on,
Did they
because yeah,
change them?
hold that thought.
Ah.
Um, they changed Frostbound,
Oh, okay.
and
Interesting.
it's really interesting too. We'll have to get into kind of what
All
they're doing
right.
with that.
Fun.
So Toxic Blade, they
This is
have
new.
split Witchblade. Because
Okay.
Witchblade, they changed it to have basic attack movement or basic attack speed reduction
Mm-hmm.
and on the aura, but then also a stacking like anti-heal, which was weird. Like people, if you were to pick it up, it would really just be for the anti-attack speed. No one
Right.
really bought this as
As
an
an anti-heal.
anti-heal item.
Mm-hmm.
So now Toxic Blade is the anti-heal half, and they took the anti-heal off of
Which split?
Witchblade.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
and so the difference between this and the new Witchblade is penetration. Um,
Mm.
so now by giving it penetration, it's 20% healing reduction per stack for 3 stacks. So 60%, that's huge. You pair that with a Brawler's Beat Stick, you're sitting at like 100% healing reduction.
Yeah, and what I like about this is that it's enemies hit by basic attacks, because brawlers relies on abilities, and that kind of
Yeah,
make like there are a lot of hunters that kind of get left in the dust for anti heal. Um, so this is really nice. It's really nice to see this because I've always kind of felt like hunters are very challenged when it comes to like trying to flex the build into like an
yeah.
in general,
Anti-heal's never been
but
an option for them.
exactly. So that's actually really exciting to me to see this. Also seeing that it's so cheap, it's I've always felt hunter builds are incredibly rigid, so it's really nice to see that they're you know giving me
Giving
some
more actual flex
flexibility.
options.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a little late in the show to be mentioning this, but Justin has been playing the game since like November. Um, and
Yee.
I've been playing this game for over 2 years now. Um, you were not there, Justin, for the original Wind Demon, but Wind Demon was an anti-heal crit item,
Interesting.
never purchased. So this, we'll see if this gets picked up.
Yeah. Well,
I
the
mean, it
interesting thing,
completely lacks power, but
like anti heal doesn't always get picked up by the hunter anyway. Like it's like
no, it
usually you
never
leave that
does,
to your
basically.
warrior. But I even now I'm thinking about this. It's more in like a joust context, like like where you have less of that room, or maybe you like maybe the builds of your warrior and mage are a little more specific, and you're like, oh well, then I'll pick up the anti heal or something. Like who knows?
Yeah, the current meta with Bracer being ridiculous, everyone's like your mids are picking up Divine Rune, everyone's picking up anti-heal but the Hunter. I mean, you
Yeah.
have your junglers going boots brawlers just
Right.
because it's so broken. Um, so this might be coming in a little late. Like, part of it to me seems like, okay, well, getting these stacks applied, you'd want to be a ranged character.
Right.
But then at the same time, it doesn't actually provide a lot of stats that a hunter would necessarily want. It doesn't have any power, and it can't apply power because this is an item that can be picked up as a physical or a magical. But I'm also thinking
Right.
like, what if you're a Kali playing against a character that is like a burst healer,
Arachne.
like a Hell,
Oh, that too.
or you're playing against like a Hercules or a
Right.
Vamana,
Right. Right.
and you want to be able to just like 60% anti-heal.
Yeah, that's significant
And the health is a lot more helpful, and the movement speed is a lot more helpful to that
for an
melee
assassin.
character.
Yeah, and
So I don't know where this item falls.
so that lack of power and uh that's making me kind of see this. I've never been a huge fan of Odysseus bow. Maybe this fills that slot in some builds.
The big bonus of Odysseus's bow is it still has power on the passive. That shock back and forth in the late game can kind of stack up.
True.
If you have a power, because you'll have a power base underneath it and an attack speed base, so you'll be
Mm-hmm.
getting that passive off with power on it rather quickly.
Right. That is true.
And it oftentimes is built with like Chin Sai to get that effect off faster.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll find its place with kind of specific situations for kind of like brawler, warrior, assassin types. Like,
I mean, you never know. Like, if you absolutely need it, I could see a Scotty with a Brawler's Beat Stick and a Toxic Blade.
yeah, but again, that's in that realm of like I want to burst you down before you can do anything to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a similar mentality. Like, I mean, I freaking play Scotty like an assassin sometimes. I'll just like gank into lane running on a ice like an ice patch and like come in with that 40% speed boost and just dump my one on them. And it's just like, oh look, you're dead.
They're
Like,
gone.
you didn't even know I was coming.
Alrighty. So,
Shaman's
Toxic
ring.
Blade. Interesting spot, but Shaman's
Yeah.
Ring. They're reworking. It used to be an attack speed item, like 30% attack speed for magical characters at a relatively low cost.
Used to heal you,
Um,
right? Or something?
yeah, it used to give a percentage of like health and mana back, I believe, on upon hitting an enemy god.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Only reason I'm remembering it is because like I got it in like Smite Adventures. It was just completely useless.
so now this is an ability power item. They've kind of worked with this the ring, the attack speed ring for mages. They've worked on that tree and changed it to
Okay.
now half of the tree is abilities and half the tree is attack speed. I don't
Okay.
quite understand why. Um,
Yeah.
because normally they try to come up with a defining factor for a tree. That's why they added attack speed to the Shuriken tree, which is Wind Demon and
Right.
Poison Star. I don't know exactly why they did this, but this item seems very strong. So it's got 60 magical power, 10% movement speed. They're also adding movement speed onto these.
Maybe that is
I don't
their
know that
specific.
mages necessarily need that. Maybe, but that's weird to
It
me.
is weird.
So this passive, anytime you deal 100 damage to an enemy god, you get a stack, and at 50 stacks, the ring evolves, getting a new passive that allows you to deal an additional 10% damage to targets hit by the wearer's abilities.
Holy crap.
It's weirder than it sounds. So, like, if you hit them with an ability, it will mark them with your character icon above their head, and then your next ability will deal like 10% damage in like after a couple of seconds. Um,
Huh.
so the
That
basically the effect out of that is like just making it so late game you can combo harder as a combo mage.
yeah, they're gonna have to word that better, because
Yeah,
that is not clear that that's what that does.
yeah. I only
Uh,
saw it in the late game.
yeah, like they should have like two passives, like one is this passive defining the stacking, and then like a second passive that says like at 100 stacks or at 50 stacks. Sorry,
Wait,
blah blah blah.
wait. I could be mixing Shaman's Ring up with Telkine's new passive.
Maybe.
This could just be at like 50,000 damage or whatever the hell it is. You get bonus 10% damage.
Well, no, I think what you
Yeah,
said sounds right because it says gaining a new passive that allows the wearer to deal an additional 10% damage to targets hit by the wearer's abilities. So if it was,
yep,
I,
that is. Yeah, I believe that is the item because I'm looking at Telkine's now. Yeah,
where
that's definitely. It's much farther. Yeah, this is definitely the item where it puts the marker above their head. It's
wait,
guaranteed.
there's more item changes under the relic. What?
Yes, this is new items or
Oh,
completely reworked items.
okay, okay, gotcha.
Um, so yeah, this has a really weird effect. To me, it's just them making a. They're going with this new evolving item thing. And what
Right,
evolving items do is like it gives you a little bit of bonus per stack or no bonus per stack until you hit max stacks, and it gives you a really big bonus like Rangda's
like
Mask,
Rang
Lona's
does.
Mask, Rage, and then they have a new icon for the item when you hit that point for the evolved item.
Oh, cool. That's fun.
And by doing this to more items, they're just pushing the game to be more late game,
Yeah,
further reinforcing that. So Shaman's Ring is one of those. It has the potential to be really powerful. Bonus to like if you're like a Scylla Sikkim Crush combo, Sikkim I'm a Monster combo, bonus 10% damage on a 1600 damage ult is significant.
yeah. Seriously.
All right, relics. This is huge.
Okay.
So relics have been really powerful or really terrible, depending on the relics. Um, And so Aegis got nerfed in a way that it no longer cleanses roots or slows.
I didn't even know it did that.
Yeah, and like that's just an extra bit of power that an item that strong didn't need.
Sure.
Blink Rune got its cooldown reduced from 120 seconds to 100 seconds, and this is a common thing, is where they're removing the cooldown reduction on the upgraded version. The upgraded version originally went down to 90 seconds, and now they put it to the base 100 seconds that they've reduced it down to. But they're
Mm-hmm.
giving these items extra effects to make them more kind of unique as when
Hmm.
you upgrade them. So now after blinking, you take 10% reduced damage for 2 seconds. So this is
Interesting.
really good for blink initiators, your blink guardians,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like an Ares could blink ult and he might not get shit on.
Yeah. That I was kind of going through some Guardians in my head. I'm like, well, if you're like a Blink Emir, that's not that useful. Like, you Frost Breath and no one can really do anything to you for 2 seconds. But when you
Yeah,
mention Ares, that actually does sound really interesting to see. Like if
blink Hunbots, blink Athena if she taunts if she taunts an
yeah,
attack
yeah,
damage
yeah, yeah,
character.
that's really
Um,
good. Well,
think
not really good, but like it's interesting to see that interaction.
um so I don't know what they're thinking. Um,
Go on.
yeah, I don't understand what they're doing with Bracer here. So, um, Bracer's broken because you get dumpstered and then you just get all your health back.
Right.
And so they decided, well, and it also subtracts 3 seconds from all of your cooldowns currently. And so they thought, well, let's make what takes this item or what makes this item completely broken and then
Break it
make that
more.
even stronger.
Uh huh.
That makes no sense. It goes from 50% of health and mana lost in the last 5 seconds to 60%, but it
Mm-hmm.
loses that cooldown reduction that no one really got it for unless they were trolling on Habwa.
But then you get it
And
back.
they apply it on the upgraded version, which the upgraded version now has a 20-second reduced or increased cooldown because it no longer gets the cooldown reduction,
Right.
but it's still going to be incredibly strong. I don't think it's actually going to go anywhere. I think it's still going to be picked up a lot,
Yeah.
adding a little bit of value to, potentially more anti-heal.
Yeah.
Cursed Ankh, of course, then has to get its anti-healing reduced on its upgrade to only 50% with an
Hmm.
increased cooldown. But it increases enemy mana costs and have their cooldowns increased by 2 seconds.
That's interesting. Hmm.
It is very interesting. The problem I have with it is that what it's meant to do, it's just not as good at doing that now.
Right. Like they kind of took what it was there for, and they're like, do that less, and here's this new thing, and this new thing is cool. Like I want to see how that plays out. Like I'm trying to. I don't know. I can't easily pick out specific interactions, but like I don't know. You cursed Ankh, uh, Chang'e, and she can't immune herself for another 2 seconds. Like that's pretty valuable. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, to me, the value of a Cursed Ankh is countering 5 bracers.
right.
Does it do that as well?
No.
I mean, and if they're gonna bracer and have their cooldown subtracted by 3 seconds, what does that bonus 2 do?
Right. They basically were just like, hey, cursed Ankh, let's make Bracer better. Huh.
I mean, yeah, it's I don't know if their attempt with this. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. Like, it might be good because of the new effect on the upgrade, but cursed, like, as an
I
anti-heal, I
don't
don't know
get
if it's as effective.
reducing the healing reduction. Like I
Granted, it didn't get picked up really for in that slot because everyone's just gonna run it on items anyways,
right.
so it doesn't have a cooldown.
Right. Like I it seems like they're trying to make Bracer and Cursed Ankh kind of like counterparts.
Yeah,
Like a counter pick, but Bracer is just significantly better, so it's like it just doesn't really
yeah.
work. Like
They
Cursed Ankh
buffed
should
what
have
Bracer does best and reduced Kursank's ability to deal with that.
Yeah, so that they'll probably realize that that's going to be a problem in coming patches, but like given that we're probably going to see Bracer getting picked up a lot and not like Ankh not really being able to do too much about it.
So Heavenly Wings, I
Allies affected
expect
by
to
Heavenly
possibly see
Wings.
this.
Whoa.
They took that away at because it was just sprint was too strong
Yeah.
when it had slow immunity on it, but now it's just not getting picked up like at all anymore.
Yeah.
And so now they've applied slow immunity.
Hmm. It brings it back to what it was, and they're not decreasing. Okay, wait. So,
So they've nerfed the cooldown in the upgraded version
okay.
because having that slow immunity effect up every 110 seconds as to 100 every 140 seconds would be too strong.
Wait, so what's
But
the difference between the upgrade and the base version now?
the upgraded version gives everyone Fatalis effect.
Whoa. Does it
And it
say?
has done that. No, because that's not changed. It has done that. It's just not been
Ah,
picked up because it doesn't do enough.
right.
And that
Interesting.
Fatalis effect only helps certain characters on the team anyways, even if you give it to everyone.
Right. Interesting.
Um, Horrific Emblem is this upgrade is very notable. Uh, Horrific Emblem, if you don't know, normally just reduces movement speed, and on the
Uh huh.
upgraded version it was 90 seconds cooldown. Now it's 130, but making it so enemies deal 20% less damage to all targets.
Wow.
If you're looking to stack like a Horrific Emblem with a Cursed Ankh and you pop both of those in a team fight,
Yeah.
the other team's gonna be hurting. Like having their mana cost increase, but really the cooldowns by 2 seconds and being slowed and dealing less damage,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Or even Papa Frenzy. Like,
Yeah, like these, I think they're trying to put more of a value on some of these team fighting relics and taken away from these more individual selfish relics.
yeah. Which again, like I think that's showing this kind of transition of the meta from a snowball meta into a late game meta. Like we're
Yeah,
seeing
where you're
these
team fighting and grouping.
exactly, and it's trying to see who can swing the fight in their favor before the fight even starts.
So Magic Shell's crazy.
Okay,
It no
that's
longer
exciting.
provides like the protections and the damage reduction. It now gives a health shield of 100 plus 15 per level.
Okay,
And then the upgrade gives a team like Athena's shield block stacks, where it'll
interesting.
absorb basic attacks, which is like that's fairly notable because that could be up to 10 basic attacks stopped
Yeah, that
in a
is a
team
lot of
fight.
DPS stopped. I so their reasoning reading this is players couldn't figure out which was better to pick up, shell or meditation. Uh, Part of that is probably like we kind of alluded to and joked about earlier, like the tutorial teaches players to pick up meditation when they shouldn't. Um, and I mean, like gods that should pick up shell. I don't know. It's strange, but adding the shield is interesting. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I'm kind of indecisive.
To me, it functionally does the same thing,
Okay.
but what it allowed for, if we skip past Meditation Cloak to Phantom Veil,
Mm-hmm.
and you look at the upgraded version of Phantom Veil, allies affected by Phantom Veil now take 15% reduced damage for 5 seconds.
Whoa.
So it basically is applying that to Phantom Veil, making it so that picking up Phantom Veil is like has some extra value to it other than just passing through walls.
Yeah,
As
I
Odin
like
was
that.
basically the only instance to ever pick it up before.
Yeah. Like,
Now maybe if you're playing against a Thor or a Cabrakan, like it's worth.
yeah, that's interesting. And like I like that. I've always felt like Phantom is just like oh, I gotta pick up Phantom. Like I don't want to do
Yeah,
that. Like the opportunity cost. Like there's just things that are more valuable that you could have, but you just need that one thing or feel like you do so badly that it's not doesn't feel good. It's just annoying. So giving it that extra little oomph is like really nice. It just makes it easier to pick up and not feel bad about yourself.
yeah, but the thing that does kind of concern me about it though is if you're using it, you're getting out of the position. You're using it to get out of the position where you need that 15% reduced damage.
Right.
And would you ever actually want to burn your Phantom, especially because the cooldown on the upgraded version has gone from 130 to 150.
Mm-hmm.
It's only up every 2.5 minutes. So would you really want to burn it just for a 15% damage reduction?
Probably not. But given what we're talking about here, like um, sometimes you use it to escape the ult, but sometimes you can't escape. Like sometimes a fight happens anyway. Um, I say the ult that just pretty much assumes Odin, but like, um,
Yeah, that's turn potential.
yeah, and again, this is just another instance of trying to control the tide of battle in those like late game fights. Um, like it just adds more weight into those situations. Um, so I don't know.
Um,
It'll be interesting to see where that falls.
Before we forget, we should jump back up to meditation.
Ah, good
Um,
point.
the upgrade before, when you pop meditation, it would give an HP5 and MP5 buff to your allies after they get hit. They took that away, and now it just reduces mana costs by 30% um, for 5 seconds, and then all abilities fired while they're buffed during that 5 seconds get their cooldowns decreased by 1 second.
Hmm, that's new. Well, duh, but
I
interesting.
mean, like the mana cost decreased by 30% basically just like supplements for the MP5, and so you're basically
Mm-hmm.
trading out the HP5 for
For cooldown,
the 1 second cooldown. Okay, it's not, to me
like
that's not super impactful.
yeah, there's not much to talk about there. Really, it's just like that's what it is. Have fun. Um, Shield of Thorns upgrade.
It's a lot
They
better.
increase the cooldown. Enemies can lifesteal from the user 50% of their total lifesteal. Wow, that's cool.
So
Interesting.
this item was an anti-hunter item that like warriors would pick up to jump in the hunter's face and box them.
Right.
Problem is if the hunter's built a bunch of lifesteal Devo gauntlets or it's a Cornunos who has like built-in Devo gauntlets, they're just gonna lifesteal for all of the damage being reflected, and it doesn't do enough. Um, so now, if you upgrade this, it just makes it so your potential to box hunters is much better, and that's what the item is meant to do.
Yeah, that's good. Like it, and it really does only affect it in those specific instances where it isn't useful and where it's needed. Like it, I don't see that like this kind of change making it like weirdly good in some strange situation. Like it's just like, nah, this is what it was for, and it just didn't do it well, and so now
Yeah.
it does, and I like that. That's good to see. Like it seems like a really elegant way of making it work
Yep. I mean the cooldown. Okay, 20 seconds at X. It's kind of significant because Thorns used to be up all the
all the
time when you
time.
upgraded it,
Yeah.
but hopefully it's actually just better when you do use it to the point where that's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sunder, it got its true damage changed to a percent health, so it can't kill you, and when you're low, it doesn't do much.
Ooh, I like that. Well, okay. Part of me likes that, and part of me doesn't, because the freaking BM Sunder sniping someone as they're trying to run away is funny, but it's
Yeah, I actually
really
kind of like
annoying.
that.
It's really annoying when it happens to you. So I get
It
that.
is super satisfying though.
Yeah, because it's this like tiny ass like little projectile that just is like this little dink, and it's just like, ha, gotcha. Like you thought you had it, but you're gone. So I don't know. Like it's
The
so
most
okay.
notable thing though is it no longer causes targets to take increased damage. So the point of picking up Sunder is gone. Um,
Huh.
they basically just gave you the ability to like throw a purple noodle at someone. Like, okay, you like a mini line shot shitty Gebolt that
Yeah,
doesn't stun. Dope. Um,
seriously.
yeah, no, that's literally a Soul Reaver on an active. They added the debuff onto the upgraded form at 20%, which is monstrous. Um, and then they
Yeah,
added the true damage back on. So the upgraded Sunder is actually good.
right. It's kind of just having another ability, like
Yeah, I
another
don't
damaging
like how
ability.
bad the base Sunder is for how good the upgraded Sunder is.
Yeah, maybe they need to kind of like change the kind of weight distribution there. But
Yeah, and
yeah,
Sunder would definitely be a second slot active though, is what that also means. Like it means you're not picking that up in the early game
and
to
honestly, I
increase
kind of
snowball.
like that. Like it. I like Sunder as an item, but like I almost like it as an item for like the meme of liking it as an item. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it's just like it's a
it's
joke.
more fun when it's not good,
Yeah. So
because then it's just infuriating.
yeah. Um. So teleport glyph.
This is huge.
That is huge. Holy
It no
crap.
longer allows you to teleport to wards on the base version, and it does that on the upgraded version, but at the cost of 40 seconds increased cooldown. Um,
Hmm.
the huge thing about this is now solo laners are going to have a lot less global presence. And so, like, they basically used to. This allowed solo laners to farm super effectively and then just instantly be at Gold Fury.
Right.
I think the sleeper effect that this has is now your like global ultimates kind of went out of favor.
Yeah.
Giannis has kind of slipped away. Thor is not necessarily getting picked up for his global mobility, and Athena's kind of slipped off the map. Like global mobility was so powerful for so many seasons, and it's kind of gone
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
I think this is gonna bring a little bit of that back.
Yeah. I can see that. The one. So is base teleport glyphs cooldown 200 seconds as well?
Yes.
Okay. Because I almost thought it was you upgrade it and it increases from 160,
No.
which I was about to say that's an interesting interaction. I don't know. Like I was gonna just say like, well, it's completely irrelevant now, but uh, it
Yeah.
would have been interesting to have that decision of like, well, I can have global presence at the cost of this being less available, but that's not how it works. So never mind. I'm stupid.
And what's interesting about this is unless you invest early into that teleport toward potential,
Mm-hmm.
normally in the later game when you upgrade this is when you have it then up to teleport to deny Hunter's abilities to split push or to just deal with split pushing.
Right.
You teleport to the towers. So do you even need it to teleport towards then? Like you're at that point in the game where you'd be upgrading it, that warrior is going to be grouping up for team fighting anyways, and then just using it to teleport to towers. So
Right. It's not really that's not really the point of it at that point.
yeah, and the loss of cooldown just really kind of hurts it then.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
what this also does is it opens up the door for things like Swiftwing to actually potentially be looked at.
Yeah, maybe. That's interesting.
Because you forego the teleport and pick up a Swiftwing, and then pick up the teleport later, maybe. Or just not pick it up at all and, go for some of these stronger, like, horrific emblems and cursed
Yeah.
onks and bracers.
Have some other type of global presence on the team that can do that instead of the warrior.
Yeah, because it's just teleport has been something that has always been on solo laners and has always just felt like it's had to be there and you had to buy it first active.
In that regard, it's kind of interesting to see that change. Like, um, to
I'm
see,
glad to see it change.
yeah,
It's
it's
just been around
refreshing.
too long.
Exactly. Um, I guess unless you have anything else to say on relics, that takes us right down into item changes.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Oh boy.
Oh mama, it Christmas.
Starting off with Rangdaz. Rangdaz Mask. It was way too risky before. Getting the stacks just wasn't worth it. Um, to like the passive it gave you, and at that point when you hit it, you basically were oftentimes ready to sell it.
Right.
So now it's got a new passive. Each time you get an assist, you gain a stack or two stacks for a kill. Stack provides 1% movement speed and 1% cooldown reduction. At 10 stacks, Rangda's Mask evolves, gaining 15 penetration.
Ooh.
It's much easier to hit max stacks. Otherwise, it does relatively the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
but it goes along with that evolving. Now, I felt like the evolving was more for like suiting a late game meta, but Rangda's is actually a snowball item. So
Yeah. That's
we'll have to
interesting.
kind of see what that does.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what that does. It's also interesting. I part of me just finds that whole statement of like, uh, reading the quote. Rangda's mask was a high risk reward item that was a bit too risky. Um, it's I don't know. That's just funny to me. And the interesting thing is there's two ways to go with that. You can keep the same amount of risk and make it more rewarding, or you can reduce the risk for the same reward, or reduce the risk and the reward. Um, so it's interesting to see the direction they went in, given that there's multiple options. Uh, but
I still don't know if it's worth.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's nice to have a cooldown starter item for physicals.
Right, yeah. Here's the thing to look at though, is you probably build this on a jungler, presumably, right?
Sure.
It just with the movement speed, cooldown reduction, penetration, junglers want all of those things. And then they're also they're the shit starters. They're the ones rotating around, starting all the fights, so they're going to be getting these assists and a lot of the kills.
Right.
So they're going to be the ones getting the stacks up the fastest. They're going to want Bluestone or Death's Toll with Bumba's Mask, and I don't see where you'd want to buy Rangdas.
Well, then maybe it has this weird space as being an item a laner can pick up, like your ADC or your solo laner.
It would be you'd want a mid. You'd want someone who's fighting more.
Yeah.
And mids can make good use out of cooldown and penetration, but not. And that penetration is more valuable on
On a
a
mage than
magical,
yeah.
just because yeah, penetration is a little harder to come by in the when you're a magical.
I mean, what I don't even then picking it up as a mid, I almost would just rather take Sands of Time.
Oh yeah, there's a big change that
Oh boy.
shifts up that meta as well with mid starter items. We'll
Well,
get there.
onward then.
Yeah, I don't think Rangdas will still be worth getting. Frostbound. Ranged basic attacks only now apply 20% movement speed slow instead of 30%.
Okay.
So Frost Talus is not as annoying. And this is where I say like I wouldn't necessarily build that other item with Frostbound just because it's less effective.
Well, the point. Sure. Okay. Right,
Because
and then
Frostbound doesn't provide as much power in penetration. Like you're doing it for the utility, and that other item is still expensive and doesn't provide a lot of stats, so you're
and
investing
Runeforge is
so
still the
much in
same.
that utility. Yeah, Runeforge I believe is still the same.
Okay. I get that. I agree with that. Um, yeah, it's just then like maybe if you are building Frostbound Runeforge, which you're probably less likely to now that Frostbound is less effective, you then can throw in the Alatani. I don't remember what it's called. It's not
Atalantis bow.
Atalantis.
As
I just watched Journey to Atlantis last night, so I'm just like Atlantean bow. That's it, right?
Atlanta?
Atlanta, Georgia. Anyway, uh, freaking uh, okay. Frostbound Hammer, Rage. Moving on.
Hold up. I want to jump back to Frostbound real quick.
Okay, shoot.
Well, I mean, for one, dual kids are going to be rejoicing over this because Frost Talus will be less effective. Well, Frost Talus on Hunters is basically dead.
Yay.
But another thing is that if you notice, the fact that they changed the effect between ranged and melee,
Mm-hmm.
I question all of the changes they went through a massive amount of work really getting those items changed, and they're gonna have a lot of work ahead of them balancing them out for the fatalis effects on the ranged and magical versions.
Right.
Why didn't they just do something like this?
Huh.
I mean, I don't know, like I guess this is only a 10% difference instead of like having a whole effect difference. But I mean, they
Right.
could have just said like melees have their movement speed increased by 40%, and that would have just supplemented. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I wonder. I mean, it's becoming really interesting. This is a little bit of a tangent, but it's. I feel like more often than not, there are items that are just that interact so differently when put on a hunter compared to a warrior or a assassin. That almost maybe having hunter exclusive items or like uh, assassin warrior exclusive items is should be more of a thing in the way that physical magical is.
no, Hi-rez has mentioned that they don't like doing that katana tree stuff where they make the items exclusive
Okay,
because it just reduces the amount of item option. Like if you do this, like with what they did to Frostbound, now that's basically like kind of like two items in a sense. Like, or
sure,
you're only getting like half an item when you release like a katana tree item.
right,
So now it's, this way everyone can have it. That's a physical.
right.
I feel like they probably should have done something along these lines with Fatalis, but
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, they might even come back and be like, "We've split Frostbound Hammer into two items." But
hopefully not. Well, the
yeah,
problem with that is that it like they have specific trees for melee only, and then putting a Frostbound Hammer item in that would be weird. But they'd do it if that's what they felt like doing. They'd find a way.
yeah,
They'd build it off of something.
they'd
So
figure it out.
Rage, um, it's like the same, except it has this crazy ass icon when it evolves to its max 10 stacks, where it gives you or 5 stacks, where it gives you the 10% crit chance.
Okay, cool,
Lona's mass does the same as well when it gets fully stacked. No actual
nice.
like statistical changes.
All right.
Bumba's got decreased healing for killing a jungle monster. The idea behind this, I think, is to just get hunters to not build Bumba's mask,
Okay.
uh, and to maybe try to get it off of like mids, because like a hunter, they oftentimes are clearing the red and the purple by themselves, and so that's
Mm-hmm.
actually huge sustain.
Yeah.
And so they would just like walk into the jungle and just get like half their health back.
Yeah.
And so they really want this to be a jungler item, and they've struggled this entire season with everyone picking it up.
Yeah. I mean, I when I play support, I tend to pick it up in casuals. It's just like I'm Athena. I can instantly clear a jungle camp. Pick up Bumba's mask.
And then John, as your ADC, is 10 levels behind because you stole all the farm.
Oh, I mean, I'm 100 to zeroing the enemy ADC, so that's fine. Like,
Bancrofts. Oh, go ahead.
well, I don't. I was just gonna make another joke, like secretly becoming the other jungler, but like,
That's basically what support's been for seasons now.
yeah,
It doesn't look like that's necessarily shifting. Granted, the mid power trio, because of those changes to when the mid waves meet, and the
yeah,
invading being less powerful, you will probably see your support and jungle rotate a little more instead of having three mid laners.
yeah.
So moving on to Bancrofts, this item has been too strong lately. It's just way
Cancer.
too much power,
Yeah.
way too much power for its price tag. Um, so they bumped up the price by 100 gold, okay, and reduced the base lifesteal by 5% down to 15. That's good because when you take into account like passive lifesteal and base lifesteal, it was really high.
Yeah.
Like the ability when you're super low with all of that bonus power
Yeah. It's
in the
pretty
early game,
ridiculous.
your health bar just jumps with
Yeah.
one strong ability hit.
I don't. I almost question if this is enough of a nerf. it's still 100 power.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think it's a good idea to not completely just shit on the item
Sure.
because I feel like it's easier to just tone it down a little more if it's still a little too
Right,
strong.
right.
But I think now it kind of gives more of a reason because now it like 2650 I believe is the price tag for Book of Thoth.
Mhm.
So now it's getting closer to where like you might as well invest in that stacking item that is going to be stronger later, especially with the meta shift where Bancroft's more of an early item.
Right, that's true too. Like looking at a more of a late game meta, Bancroft is probably less in the picture less than it is right now.
Given that the base lifesteal is reduced, like that bonus out of it that you also really look for. Granted, 200 power when you're low is insane, and certain characters will still like as Scylla, I would still look at a Bancroft's Talon, and
Yeah,
as
of
Hades,
course.
I would still look at a Bancroft's Talon.
Anubis,
Yeah, and Lewis,
Gooby.
uh, Dynasty Plate Helm. Uh, I don't know if they actually look at the game or anything because um, it will keep this item from being a must buy, even though if you look at SPL games, most mids don't buy the item.
Yeah.
They're building Bancrofts, not Dynasty Plate Helm. So basically, this item's 1700 gold. It's an early game item. It's an item that you buy early that by late game is not really that effective.
So they make it
Decrease
less
physical
effective.
protections, decrease penetration by 5,
That's significant.
15 to 10. Yeah, so this item is just not nearly as strong in general. And if we're looking at a late game meta, don't buy it.
Yeah.
Like I think this item's just dead for a while.
It
Um,
it certainly looks that way.
Celestial Legion Helm is getting a new passive. It used to have like the power bonuses after healing, and that was just not
Oh yeah.
used at all.
Hey, except in
Now,
Smite Adventures, am I right? No. Okay.
no. Even there, not always.
uh,
Wait, are you talking about the Mario Kart?
the what are what is that? I don't know what
Hercules.
you're talking about.
Um,
Who
so
made
yeah,
that?
this new passive. Every 2 seconds you receive a stack of physical protection of 10 physical protection. Um, and stacks are removed upon taking physical damage, and the stacks can only be gained after not taking damage for 5 seconds.
Hmm.
Um, and then we're gonna not tell you the maximum stacks.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna guess this probably caps off at 3 stacks.
I
Um,
that is important. What
now
if
they
what if it
mentioned
doesn't have a cap?
it surely does.
I know, but just oh man.
And their thought was like this used to be an anti-crit item that was actually useful on mages against certain compositions, like a Naja with a crit hunter. You'd want this.
Right.
And then they changed that, and no one wanted it. And they were saying people were crying out for anti-crit,
Uh-huh.
and they're like the best counter to anti-crit is just physical protection.
Uh-huh.
I
I
mean, this doesn't
I
make this an anti-crit item, but like if you want to be tankier on a
sure.
mid, it maybe. My problem
Maybe.
with the item is it doesn't provide enough statistics outside of just physical protection and power
Uh-huh. Yeah, it
that I don't want.
right.
It's surely got health.
Throw
I'm not
some
looking
pen
at
in
the actual
there and
item, but
maybe we can talk about this
yeah,
later.
pin is literally the stat you slap on anything if you want people to put look at buying an item.
Exactly.
The next change is huge. Vampiric Shroud now
Uh-huh.
has 10 physical protections in exchange for losing the 4% magical lifesteal that didn't matter.
Yep.
Because 4% magical lifesteal
Is
on your starter
nothing.
item in the early game doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then the new passive, it used to be when you killed an enemy, either a god or a minion, you would get 6 health and 3 mana.
Whoa.
Now it's just damaging, so you're gonna get that when you hit the wave. This is now a massive sustain item. I would pick this up over Sands of Time because I just like being more survivable as a mid laner.
Sure.
What this also does is it can now be flexed as like a Guardian solo item as well with the 10 physical protection.
Yeah.
Guardian solos before we're having to pick up Mark of the Vanguard,
Mm.
they could potentially look at this now because that amount of sustain, like a Xing Chen with 10 physical protections against a physical solo laner, then also getting that 6 health and 3 mana per hit on his roar, plus the
Yeah.
passive HP 5,
That's nuts.
that's pretty survivable. And they removed the stat that would not help Guardian solos in exchange
I
for a
like
bunch of
that.
stuff that would. Especially because the Guardian solos are not going to kill the minions with their abilities,
Yeah,
likely.
for sure. And
So
I like that I
getting
don't
that.
feel like this outright replaces Sands of Time. Like I feel like
No, it doesn't.
it's a choice. Like you can be like, I want the cooldown or I want the survivability. Like it, and I think that's really cool. Like not often is there that flexibility when it comes to starter items.
Well, currently in the meta, Soulstone is there.
Sure,
If you're looking at your mid jungle clear against their mid jungle clear, and you're going to get swamped,
Soulstone.
you'll go with the Soulstone just to actually be able to keep up with their clear, so you don't lose the entire game just based off of your
Right.
clear. Um, so I imagine like Soulstone will still be something that you'd pick up on Scylla, or those mages that have really bad clear in
Mm-hmm.
the early game. But this is like definitely something to look at.
Yeah.
This is no joke.
Yeah. Seriously, that's really big.
I think maybe this is might have been part of the reason why they toned down the physical protections on Dynasty Plate Helm. Because if you start, building into Imperial Helmet and then into Dynasty Plate Helm with a Vamp Shroud, a jungler's not going to do shit to you.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, maybe that survivability with the Dynasty Plate Helm and the Vamp Shroud could still be built now.
Yeah, particularly just trying to get it like quick and cheap.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, Ancient Blade, this is the tree that has like Witch Blade, um, Wing Blade, and Relic Dagger. It's now got 50 health on the base and reduced attack speed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Adventurer's Blade literally doesn't get attack speed.
Mm-hmm.
This is what builds into um, Wing Blade and Relic Dagger, which is interesting that you literally lose 5% attack speed by buying into this. That's strange. Um,
Hmm.
but that's actually Curse Blade's removed because it's got the new step to Witch Blade.
Yeah.
Um, and then now Witchblade, as we mentioned before, it's now been split into the two items, and this one's just the reduction aura. Increased attack speed boosted by 5% at cost of 100 health. This is a nerf? Oh no! Added 15% lifesteal.
Wait, where are we at? Whoa.
Witchblade.
Witchblade. Alright, I'm here.
I
I
was looking
got
at the
distracted.
I was like increased attack speed by 5% at and losing 100 health. I was like, I mean, okay, but they added
It added
15%
lifesteal.
lifesteal.
Ah, interesting.
Huh. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Um, because that lifesteal's for hunters and like maybe Freya.
I guess in like a hunter 1v1?
Yeah,
Maybe?
which it makes it a good boxing item, but you're losing out on just so much DPS potential that you don't want that Witchblade on a hunter. Even
Yeah.
though it even gets the bonus, like a lot of these statistics are moving to be more of a hunter item, but it still doesn't provide. It has no power and no
And no pen.
penetration.
Yeah.
And hunters are so item dependent that they need items that give them those stats.
Yeah, they're saying it's being refocused as more of an offensive boxing item. I like I see how they're trying to do that, but it's still not enough. I don't think.
Yeah, because I look at stuff like this and that doesn't have the penetration and power and go, okay, maybe that would work on a basic attack assassin.
Right.
But what does that 15% lifesteal really do for them?
Yeah. Because
Um,
honestly, with an assassin, you might as well just try and just annihilate them faster as opposed to try and be sustained.
Yeah, and the health isn't like only 100 bonus health. That's what?
Bro, this is for Tank Artemis.
I hate you. I actually was thinking about the potential of this for Freya, because there's when we get down to the magical attack speed items, I'll bring up Freya again.
Okay.
Wing Blade loses its attack speed, and so does Relic Dagger.
All right.
But Relic Dagger gets a bonus 50 health, and uh, before it was a percent reduction for relics on Relic Dagger, and
Uh
now
huh.
it's just removes 30 seconds cooldown from your your active items.
Cool.
So it's now better for that.
Yeah, I like
Um,
that.
and the yeah, I mean, we'll see. It depends. I think depending on how powerful these team relics are, you might see like a guardian pick this up.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to see because I don't I'm not sure I've ever seen reason to pick up Relic Dagger.
I mean, it's got the stats we don't see right now is the 10% movement speed and 10% CDR.
Yeah.
So like there was a point in time before you started playing where supports would go like boots, wing blade, relic dagger.
Hmm.
That didn't last all that long,
Right.
but it was there.
Yeah, I could see that.
Um, so yeah, I think whether or not this gets picked up by supports, I mean, I don't think it will be, considering that I think some other tank items, but maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right. I
Um,
think it depends on the potency of these new team actives.
the attack speed certainly wasn't used on Relic Dagger. The thing about Wingblade is it was picked up on characters that could make use of that attack speed, but the
Right.
item was just too strong.
Yeah.
Because like you could even pick it up on a Scotty, a Freya. Um, your plenty of attack damage assassins would pick this up,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it's really potent on them because it just gives them more sticking power when they should be getting peeled by a slow.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. It's like this thing that we wanted to counter, it like super counters. Like it's not even like a counterplay so much as just like a automatic win in that
Making you
situation.
immune, yeah. Um, so now jumping to Demonic Grip. This is huge. Uh, I say this because it got its attack speed reduced by 5% down to 15%,
But magical power
and the
increased.
magical powers increased, and it gained movement speed. And this is where I want to bring up Freya. Just one quick dip ahead. Telkine's ring loses its attack speed.
Hmm.
So now Freya, basically for her attack speed options, has the new Fatalis ring, that's 25%,
Okay.
and this 15% on demonic grip. That's 40%. That's literally only Odysseus's bow worth of attack speed.
Mm-hmm.
She
Interesting.
has to build her only other options for attack speed don't have any power. It's this dagger. Oh well, and then you even look at it. Relic dagger loses its attack speed. Wingblade loses its attack speed. Wingblade is a good, like a half decent item on Freya because of her survivability. So that's why I was
Yeah.
thinking like maybe she does want the Witchblade for that 15% lifesteal and 20% attack speed to bump her up to 60%.
Right. I never thought about. Huh. Yeah, that's true. Removing all this attack speed does make the Witchblade make more sense for Freya. Hmm.
But then the problem is like where do we fit things in for Freya? Because she loses the Fatalis penetration. That's not on the magical form.
Yeah.
And so she's now got boots and demonic grip for pen.
Yeah.
That's it. That's okay, I guess. But she has some serious tank shred potential if you get more pen on her. So like if you build an Obi shard, but then at that point your build would be like boots, your Fatalis ring, um, probably like a Bancroft's or life like in a lifesteal item like that,
Yeah.
and you'd have your demonic grip, your Obi shard, and your Rod of Tahuti.
Hmm. Yeah, there really isn't that
40%
much
attack speed.
Yeah, it's not that much attack speed.
So is that where you swap out the Bancrofts? Well, shit, you're losing Bancrofts. That's not really worth.
No, not at all. Yeah,
So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens to her build. I think she's just gonna have less attack speed.
I think so too. I think I think they maybe they wanted to nerf her or maybe they weren't thinking about her, but like it seems like they're acknowledging the fact that a lot of the like previous like auto attack mages have kind of taken more of just a normal ability mage role. And
But
so
Frey can't do that.
yeah, exactly.
Like, her having attack speed makes her abilities deal more damage because they only last for a certain amount of time, and the more basic attacks you get off, the more damage they deal.
Right.
So we may see the Obsidian Shard being given up for the Witchblade or something like that.
Yeah. And
So
well, hmm. The thing is then would removing Obsidian Shard make her better against squishies or better against like it removes that tank shred potentially, right? Or no?
yeah, it reduces the tank shred, but giving her the bonus attack speed and boxing, I mean, it could help her in lane depending on when she builds it, because she
Right.
does have a relatively bad time in lane.
Mm-hmm. Seems to be a lot of like step 1 and step 2 changes after Telkines. Item
Some
changes.
So something I do also want to mention is if you're getting the bonus 7% off of Demonic Grip,
Mm-hmm.
and you you do build something like Witchblade that'll give you 10%. You're looking at 17% there, and you build Pen Boots, that's 18%. You're looking at 35% bonus movement speed. That's almost double the bonus you'd be getting statistically from most mages who just, or like hunters who just build boots.
Huh.
So Freya would be really quick with that build and more survivable.
Interesting.
And the Hasten Ring also gives 7%.
Yeah,
42%. That's kind of crazy.
that is kind of crazy.
Like, she'd be getting close to the range of getting diminishing returns on movement speed.
Yeah. She's gonna be kiting like crazy with a
Yeah.
build like that. Huh.
So that might actually help her. But
Yeah.
yeah, her build is going to be very interesting to see where it falls after all of these changes to these attack
Yeah,
speed
it
items.
seems like it's either gonna be more of a like kind of cannony slower attack speed or just like kind of poking you very quickly, like with a lot of movement speed and attack speed. I don't know.
Either way, I see a DPS drop for her, but
I agree.
I mean, I think they might just be afraid of what she'll look like in this new meta too. Because the fact that they went in and made that mage only like they had Freya in mind, and I think looking at Witchblade, the 15% magical lifesteal and that added attack speed to me like almost screams to me that they're also thinking about Freya with that.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to Telkines, um, reduce cost by 100 gold from 2800 to 2700, decrease magical power from 80 to 70, added 10% movement speed and removed its 20% attack speed. With a new passive of every time you deal damage with an ability, you gain a stack of 20 power up to a maximum of 3 stacks. These stacks last for 5 seconds. So combo
Whoa.
mages can get a lot out of this because
Yeah.
that could stack up to 130 power for 2700 gold with 10% movement speed. Eh?
It's a very different item now.
That actually for 2700 gold, only 130 power and 10% movement speed. And that's 130 power given that it's stacked.
That's true.
Compare that to Bancroft's. Even nerfed Bancroft's. Like,
Yeah.
is this worth?
Kinda doesn't seem like it.
Like the weird thing is I see this um might be do well when paired with the no no I like this is questionable to me.
What did you what were you thinking you were gonna say?
Well, I was like pairing it with Shaman's Ring, but like you might as well just pair a more powerful item with Shaman's Ring.
Exactly. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, you hit one ability to apply the effect of Shaman's Ring, so the next ability will hit harder, which at that point you'll have that increased damage from this passive, but still, why not have a more powerful item? I mean, I look at this like, okay, is it for the 10% movement speed?
It is interesting to see how many item mage items now have movement speed. Like,
Now, one thing I do question
uh,
is it says every time you deal damage with an ability, but it doesn't specifically say where it has said in these patch notes that only once per ability.
so say you crush 3 people, does that stack it
Poseidon
instantly?
Whirlpool, Grasping Hands, Kukulkan
Ah,
Tornadoes is what I'm thinking. These ticking abilities, will they
right.
basically just get that bonus 60 power?
So
And
then do
then if
you
they get that
combo
for
this with
free,
Spear of
is
the
it still
Magus?
worth?
If they get it for free, is it still worth?
Or for if they basically get those stacks for free, and it's basically a 130 power item. 130 power
Still
for
pick up a
2700
Bancroft.
gold. Um, but the 10% movement speed? You've got a good point with Spear of the Magus. I think if you put this on a tick damage mage with Spear of the Magus,
It has a place.
yeah.
Yeah, just
Because
because
I mean,
those
130
happen
for
at the same time.
2700 is still pretty cheap. I just keep in my mind comparing it to Bancroft's.
Yeah, me too. Like every time I like go through it, I think, well, Bancroft's is blah 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 blah. Hmm.
Yeah, this actually might have a potential on tick mages with a spear.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't really see it anywhere else. I don't think it
like, and if
fits
you
where
say
it
build
used to
this on
fit.
Poseidon, it makes up for the movement speed loss from Fatalis.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
mean, that
think
movement's like I'm thinking of those gods that have that tick damage, Anubis, Kukulkan, like those gods the movement speed's pretty handy.
yeah. Even like Poseidon and Kukulkan have movement speed like buffs, and Anubis is just freaking immobile. So it's nice to have it. Um, yeah, I think you're right. I think that's where it's just gonna find its place. Is like I think it's being kind of removed from the realm of auto attack mages.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
but for sure, it's
I mean,
just
because looking at it for like Freya still,
yeah.
back to Freya, I imagine her gumballs could apply this, or if she has her steroid and her gumballs applied,
Mm-hmm.
um, like say okay, here's another way to think of it. She pops a gumball and attacks one set of 3 creeps. That's 3 stacks instantly.
Yeah.
Or if she pops her steroid with the gumballs, that's 2 stacks per auto. She'd get that power up quickly too.
Yeah.
But again, where does that fit in her build? I don't know. Um,
Yeah. It's definitely like I feel like we can't easily answer this question without doing some real number crunching.
so Emerald Ring and Enchanted Ring, what leads up to those? Decrease cost on both of those, and have their attack speeds removed, but they got bonus movement speeds. Nothing super notable. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so Druid Stone, this starting into these magical defense items,
Mm-hmm.
is something to deal with the balance of magical versus physical defense items.
Mm-hmm.
So in Smite, you have magical and physical effective health. They're 2 different things. What it is, say your physical effective health is how much physical damage it would take to kill you, and that's affected by your total health pool and your physical protections.
Okay.
Same goes with magical. How much magical damage would it take to kill you, given your health and your protections? But magical items, you generally just looked at because physical effective health is just valued more. Your magical items that were being valued was your pestilence, your heartward amulet, things that give you health because that increases your physical effective health as well, which was just a more valuable statistic.
Right.
So now they're going into these other magical items and giving them health to increase their physical effective health.
Now, okay, so they did that with Voidstone, with Genji's Guard, with Oni Hunter's Garb. My
Yep.
one sadness is seeing that magical power decrease on Voidstone.
Yeah.
Um,
It looks like they're saying we want this to be this is a guardian item.
yeah, like
Be
one of my favorite things is playing a tank Isis build, and Voidstone is where a good chunk of the penetration and power comes from. Um, it is a kind of a rough hit.
yeah, so what they're saying with this is they want this to give more effective health, um, deal less damage, and they reduce the cost by 50 gold. Okay. Um, but they really want this item to be something that a guardian picks up to be aggressive, get in their face, and make it so their magical characters, like their mages, can deal more damage
Mm-hmm.
instead of tanky mages.
Right.
I'm okay with that. Like,
Yeah. I get it for sure.
I really like the changes to Genji's and Oni Hunter's Garb. Like, these items were not looked at.
At all. Yeah, for sure.
Shogun's Kusari was the only one that was looked at because it has a broken ass passive, but besides that,
Yeah.
otherwise it wouldn't have been looked at. And they also just the MP5 change is nice. I think what they're doing here is making this like a good look, especially Genji's Guard for solo laners. Or these
Yeah.
are really, I think, just geared for solo lane anyways.
Yeah.
Giving this increased MP5 is nice for solo laners, and the health is obviously good. It like makes this something better to
Given
build
what we
into
just
early.
explained. Yeah.
And increasing the passive cooldown reduction on Genji's. So basically, Genji's, when you take magical damage, it reduces your cooldowns by 2 seconds, but now it's 3 seconds.
Yeah.
That's huge. Like a tier could build into this. And what's nice about it is you can hit 40% CDR and then get more CDR from this passive. It allows you to
Yeah.
basically overcap.
Which is really nice.
And now that's even more of an option. So you could have a tier going insane.
Yeah. Seriously.
Or a
That's
Hercules
a
that
scary
heals like
thought.
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think tier's still gonna come back. He's still just a shitty Hercules, but
Yeah.
Oni Hunter's Garb gives you um, basically passive damage mitigation. I believe it's just like an effect that triggers when you take um, the magical damage. Uh, so got bonus MP5, 10 bonus MP5, 100 health for the physical effective health, and then its passive mitigation got moved from 15 to 20%, and that passive is up like what 1.5 times as often now.
Yeah.
90-second cooldown to 60-second cooldown. So basically, you can walk into the middle of a fight and just take a bunch of reduced damage.
That's
Will this
pretty cool.
will this item get picked up?
Well, what I'm thinking of, like, one of my favorite warriors is Nike because she just can't die. Um, what I'd like to know is if this is a valuable pickup, if that's enough. Like, if that,
Yeah,
um,
does it give enough? Because
because the
like the
frequency
cooldown
is
from
attractive.
Genji's is really strong. 10% CDR plus that like 3 seconds
Yeah.
with more health
Yeah.
and 10 more MP5.
Mm.
And the other thing too is how strong these passives on these magical defense items are. Like Bulwark Shield is insane. Pestilence obviously very potent.
Yeah, and Shogun's is really strong. Like,
Shogun's and then Genji's now is quite
pretty
powerful.
strong.
Is Oni's worth?
I think that's another. This is another instance of like it would take some number crunching to really know like what the cost of taking it instead of another item would be.
I don't. I wish I could see it right now, but the actual duration of that mitigation.
Let me pull it up.
Alrighty, while you pull that up, I'll start dipping in Ao Kwang a little bit.
Yeah, do
So
it.
his old passive was really weird. It was basically just out of combat, um, like mana stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was not good,
Yeah.
uh, and it was really awkward to actually try to, get that stacked up and actually useful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so now he's got a new thing where he has increased mana to supplement that. He gets
Right.
higher base mana, higher MP5, higher mana per level, and higher in the MP5 per level is over doubled
Yeah.
that gain that you get there. So that's to make up for that passive
Loss of
mana
passive.
loss, so he doesn't have to build into mana. And his
Okay.
new passive, every time he executes an enemy god, he gains a stack that increases his magical power and lifesteal, stacking up to 3 times per. And the stacks are permanent. And
Hmm.
it's 15 power and 5% lifesteal at per stack, making it 45 power and 15% lifesteal at max stacks, which is not that hard to get 3 executes of Sao Kwang.
No.
Um, I think it helps solidify him as more of a late game.
Yeah. Well, I
It's
mean,
just something that he gets more power. I mean, it'll help him get to late game too if he's
yeah.
snowballing. But that's just another way I think for them to tack more power and lifesteal onto him
Yeah,
in the
cuz
later game.
I feel like from when I started playing the game, I've seen a lot less of him.
Oh yeah, he fell off hard. He
Yeah.
didn't fit into the early game snowball meta. He had no place in it.
Yeah.
And I think now that it's shifting, and this to me is a buff. This is a
Mhm.
straight up huge buff
Mhm.
because they basically just built in his old passive into his statistics and then gave
Mhm.
him one that gives him they just gave him 45 power and 15% lifesteal.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's going
I
to be
agree. It's
real
almost
strong.
like a cheap bridge item worth of bonus stats for just playing. Like you don't have to go out of your way.
That lifesteal is not even that's a full lifesteal item worth of lifesteal.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what's really strong about that.
So stepping back to Oni's Hunter's Garb real quick. Um, this is so the mitigation lasts only for 5 seconds. Uh, but Hunter's Garb costs 1900, so it is
That's
really
cheap.
cheap. Um, so I don't know. Maybe an early like that mitigation might come in handy earlier in the game, and then you swap it out if you stay or around for late game. I don't know, but like
Things to remember though, teleport. The solo laner is going to be in fights less,
yeah,
and we are looking at a more late game
yeah. So
meta. Granted, percent mitigation is not affected by what stage of the game it's at. So late game, it's really powerful.
yeah, it
Maybe.
yeah, and I think it might maybe just find a place in like Clash or Joust. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it may not show itself much in Conquest.
Well, not necessarily, because Clash and Joust would be too hard to control when that passive gets used. The pace is
True,
too fast, where that's getting put on cooldown all the time, just
true.
from basically nothing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, no, okay. It's actually a pretty specific instance where it's triggered. The trigger for it is when you deal damage to an enemy god. If at least two other enemy gods are within 55 units of you, gain 15% damage mitigation.
Okay.
So it's
They
actually
have
pretty
changed that.
controllable. Um, so I actually disagree with that.
It's basically only triggers in a team fight.
Exactly. Which is interesting also because it's if you get jumped on, you can also use it. Hmm. Jump into an enemy team with that Nike ult.
Yeah, there's definitely yeah, like a Nike ult would definitely proc that. Yeah, it might have potential for specific gods, and I think Nike is one to look at for that. Granted, I don't know if she's gonna come back into the meta. She doesn't have that great of late game because she doesn't do anything other than just not die,
Yeah, exactly.
and I think that's gonna hurt even more,
Yeah, for sure.
and she's not getting changed. But you could still definitely build that item on her.
Yeah, we can go back to gods now.
All right, Bakasura. He's an ult bot. They're reinforcing that even more. Um, they make eat minion now. Any large minion that requires you to drop into 33% health. So basically, your main buff carrying monsters,
Mm-hmm.
your Oracle Harpies,
Mm-hmm.
and your Elder Fire Elemental. All of those things will now give you 2 minions towards your ult, and your ult now has a scaling down cooldown from 90 seconds to 70 seconds.
Ooh.
So it's going to make his ult have more minions, better for split pushing and for team fighting. and his ult's gonna be up more often, given that he's an ult bot. So that does help him a lot.
Yeah,
But the problem with Bakasura is it's still too easy to just stun him, focus him out, and kill him because he has to be in your face trying to deal this damage.
yeah,
But I wouldn't sleep on it. I mean, Bakasura ult's insane.
yeah. And like, given that he's easy to shut out, maybe just pairing him with a Geb, or even I was gonna say or a
Khepri.
Chiron,
Let's
but
not say
like
something that dumb.
exactly.
We want
Uh,
people to take us a little bit seriously.
yeah, just a little. Um, but yeah, I agree. I think I've
He might be a serious pub stomp god after this.
yeah, yeah. I was about to say that. Like I'm not so sure about what impact this may have in a competitive level, but
Uh, it doesn't fix his what's wrong with him in the high level of play.
it's gonna make him like he already can pub stomp pretty easily, but it's gonna make that even more potent.
So Bologna, she's probably the best god in the game right now. The problem is that she has a bludgeon that has a cleave on it. The cleave allows her to dominate lane, and in a snowball meta, it's kind of insane. Um,
Mhm.
so what they've done is they've reduced her base power from 39 to 36. That basically, with the way power translation to basic attack damage does, that's 3 damage per basic attack on a cleave. She's hitting 6 creeps, that's 18 damage loss. I don't see that
Mhm.
doing much to hurting her cleave because I don't know if that 3 damage would ever make it so that it takes one more swing to kill the wave.
Mhm.
But what's a very notable change is
The
Bludgeon now
cooldown.
goes from 14 seconds down to 10 seconds. I mean, she's going to level that first.
Yeah.
It'll get there, but in the very, very early levels, Bludgeon is insane.
Yeah, and
And so
this
this
might
kind of
give
takes that
another
down.
warrior. Yeah, it might give the opponent a
And
chance to try and keep up.
and given the meta shift, I think she's already not going to be as strong, with
Mhm.
clear not being as favorable and it going to late game.
Yeah,
I
I think you're
don't
right.
know how. I think she'll still be strong because she has a shit ton of utility and can absolutely fuck up a hunter's day.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was gonna like for the position of someone who likes to play hunters. Like, Bologna is just scary. Like, bludgeon aside, the disarm and then her shield form are just like
Yeah.
such cancer to try and deal
She'll
with.
bash into you, slow you, stick on you with that. Then as you start to get a like distance yourself, she'll disarm you and then have farther range on her basic attacks and still be able to stick on you.
Yeah,
That's a huge pain in the ass.
it's ridiculous.
Chiron. Um,
My boy,
this is nuts. So training exercise now applies a mark for masterful shot to all targets hit.
this is nuts.
Basically making it so he can clear with because if you're trying to poke, you're gonna do masterful shot, then training exercise. But this allows him to hit all 6 creeps with his 2. Um,
Isn't it a
although
maximum of
this
3 targets though?
I don't know. I can guarantee you it's not. Um,
I interesting.
because you can like nail a 5-man ult and hit all 5 people with it.
Huh. Why
So
do I feel like that's a thing?
you can go check it right now
Yeah,
while I'm
I'm
talking.
checking it.
Um, so him having this is increased clear. I don't know if this is really gonna like obviously it's making him better for early laning, but with the shift in the meta, he does not have great late game at all.
Yeah.
And like given that the duo lane's also rather late game oriented already, Rom, like Kurninos, Hu Yi being top picks,
Yeah, I don't think this makes him a ADC pick. You play mid.
this reinforces Chiron farther as a mid.
Exactly.
And do I think he's a very good mid? No. Like I love playing him mid. In I don't with where this I mean, if you maybe wanted a double hunter, um, or if you had an Ao Kwang jungle,
Right.
I think I would pick up a Chiron with this change. Especially
Over
with
like Neath.
Bluestone, being able to apply Bluestone twice.
Yeah, that is good.
I mean, over Neath, that's or like Medusa.
Yeah.
I mean, Medusa in mid struggles with clear, but obviously is just more powerful than Neith and Chiron.
Yeah.
Um, but Neith's utility is really good for. I mean, I would pick Chiron out of preference. I
Right.
like having that. Like, if you build a lot of power and penetration on him, his ultimate, you can smack someone for 900 plus damage. I mean, if you build full pin, you could 100 to 0 someone with the ult and then the masterful shot.
Yeah. And
So
that's
maybe.
why I like Chiron. Um, but I think that is something we need to acknowledge. Is I think he doesn't replace Neath, but he definitely is an option now, which is cool. I like that. I like that it's an option.
And I don't expect to see him unless you have like an Ao Kuang jungle
Yeah, he's for those really weird like comps where the
or
magical
like
physical
triple
balance is kind of
guardian
weird.
double hunter, but I don't know how well that fits with the late game meta.
I would feel like it doesn't.
I mean, it could, like hunters are great late game.
Sure.
Depending on your guardians, it could. Like if you, I mean, Kraken is not back though, so I can't even say that without sounding like an idiot. Kraken won't be back.
Should we move
We'll
on to
see.
Kronos?
Yeah. So they moved his passive to being a passive on a second ability and gave him a new passive that for every 2 minutes it gives him 3 power up to 25 uh, times, which is 50 minutes. So at 50 minutes he gets a bonus 75 power, basically
Huh.
just reinforcing him as a late game carry, making him more powerful in the late game. Did he necessarily need buffs right now? No, but like I guess this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't affect most of the game all that much until you start getting later and later. And at that point, like, I'm down with
It's
Kronos
our
being a super cannon.
yeah. Like he's becoming a carry in a part of the game that usually is never even reached. Like that is a very long
But it
time.
might be reached. And the thing is, like, they're not putting a band-aid on his weakness. I hate when they do that. They're like, oh, this god's struggling a little bit, or we can make this god better. Let's take away their weakness. No, this is reinforcing his strength, and I like that.
Yeah. I like that too.
Isis gets a passive rework. Funeral Rites was basically just like people dying around her.
Mhm.
Um, gave um, mana, an HP5 and an MP5 aura.
Mhm.
That those were lost upon her dying. Now they're no longer lost upon her dying, and she gains 10% CDR upon reaching 10 stacks. This is what I'm talking about, where they keep adding these
Ooh.
passives on things that when you hit max stacks get bonus effects, which basically make them more effective late game.
Yeah.
This improves her late game and just improves her in general. Uh, the utility of the HP5 and MP5 to people around her, that's good.
Is 10 the maximum?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't say, but yes.
Cool.
Uh, so I mean, that's a buff for Isis. I don't know if she's really going to be all that good, especially because Gold Fury got nerfed. Her wave pressure is not as valuable.
Voidstone got nerfed. But that's just
Um,
what I build on her. I don't know if that's
yeah,
normal.
most people don't build that on her, but
I
I
don't know.
mean, if you build a team comp that really wants to secure objectives, you could still probably make her work.
Yeah.
Or if you have like a Kali Isis, can always carry her through early lane.
Mhm.
And then her utility is just nice. Like she's a utility mage in late.
Yeah, for sure.
Kuzenbo removed from. Fuck, never mind. Um,
I
Nene
wish.
Kappa now gets a slow by 20% because as if that ability wasn't annoying enough already. Uh, I mean, it's not the basic attack in the Nene Kappa. It is getting hit by the projectile itself.
But now you're more likely to get hit by basic attacks because you're slowed.
Yeah, so I don't like that to me just makes that ability more annoying. I don't like that. It's like don't make shit annoying. People don't want annoying. I don't care if it makes them better. Annoying is bad. This
Yeah,
is a game people play to have fun, not to get pissed off. What is good, Sumo Slam now has increased turning radius and a reduced cooldown.
I like that.
So his displacement, like to his utility as a guardian, is now better
Yeah, as
from
opposed to
that.
just being some weird magical warrior.
Yeah, that just kind of slams shit around and doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah.
And biggest change, in my opinion, his ultimate. Now the knockup is much higher and the knockback is much smaller.
Interesting.
So it still provides a shitload of disruption, but it now can function as setup as well and not just being like really good peel.
Yeah.
Because like you're not gonna commit a mage ability to trying to hit someone out of a Kuzenbo ult because it's just too hard to control.
Yeah,
But
there's
now
too
they're
much
knocked
going
up
on.
a lot, and I could like nail a raw snipe out of this thing now. It's so much knock-up with such little knockback.
That's nice.
So yeah, like
I like that.
good looks for Kuzenbo.
Yeah,
I he
might
Kuzenbo
get some
solo man.
picks. Yeah.
Kuzenbo solo with the new vamp. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be freaking nuts. Jeez.
because I mean late game his ability to stand inside of shit is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Plus with new thorns,
And his passive.
he could really shit on a hunter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Naja, uh, basically the thing where you beads and still got taken up into the air by Naja ult, they're trying to say that that was intentional. That's obviously not true, considering their own description until like 2 months ago didn't even say that when Fire Wheels did 6 instances of damage and said it only did 3. I don't think they even understood how this ability worked, or the programmers made it not how the designers intended it. I'm not sure,
Mm-hmm.
but now, I mean, it's technically nerfed to Nausea, but really it's just a quality of life change that will keep me from screaming as much.
Yeah.
Especially like online with ping, when that happens, it's just like that shit
Yeah.
happens because you're ping. And it's
Yeah,
really
it
frustrating.
for sure. It's just one of those weird like niche instances.
Nemesis got some interesting changes. She's
Yeah.
really strong. She's basically currently an ult bot, and
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing here is they're increasing the scaling and power on her other abilities,
To
um,
make her actually do what an
and
assassin can do.
yeah, and reducing the slow on her slice and dice because 50% was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then they're decrease the protection shred on her ult from 50% to 30%. Those are some pretty big nerfs, but giving her more power elsewhere. It's also notable that like that additional power elsewhere also gives her a lot better clear, just
Yeah.
making her more useful in that sense. Um, but like being that she's still like 30% late game is still really strong.
Yeah.
I still think in a late game meta she could definitely still get picked up, especially because her scalings are increased. So
Yeah, it's kind of nice to see her be a little more useful outside her ult.
um, these next changes are huge to Nuwa.
Okay.
She can now basically kind of do like Nemesis ult or like Scotty Dog style targeting when she deploys her clay soldiers.
Whoa.
So she's got a targeter when she like selects the ability,
Uh-huh.
and she can either select no one and deploy it and it'll do what it does, or if she selects the person, the minions will literally just start walking towards them and then dash to them.
Whoa. That's
Nuwa's
huge.
back. Like Nuwa is going to be a top tier mid laner. She's has incredible late game, great safety, and now her downfall is non-existent.
That's amazing.
Nuwa is going to be brawlic. She
I'm
is going to be
super
fucking
excited
insane.
actually. That's awesome. I've always found that super frustrating for anyone who didn't know. Nuwa can summon these clay soldier minions that you just drop on the ground, and like their AI just doesn't know what to do, so they just kind of freak out and target whatever's nearby. And sometimes it's not even the nearest thing. It's just like, hey, look over there. They just like run off into like the distance and are just like, hey, la da 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 da, chasing butterflies. It's like there's a guy over there I'd like you to kill, and they're like, nah, later. So this is a really, really, really good change. Um, and it's kind of interesting just to see like how potent a quality of life slash bug fix change like this can make. Like this isn't changing numbers. This isn't changing.
This to me is beyond quality of life. Like this is a huge fucking buff.
Sure, but more so, my point is it's not numbers. Like that's not what they're
Yeah.
changing. Um, and that's really cool to see. I really like that. This is something they've been asking for. People have been asking for a really long time. So it's not like it's inventive or creative, but um, I think it kind of reinforces that you can find ways to buff things that aren't just let's make these numbers better because that's not always satisfying take Kuzenbo for example. But
All right,
yeah,
so
I'm excited
Raijin,
about that.
worst character in the game currently, getting some buffs. Um, these basically they're reworking him. When they originally released him, they're like, oh, he's a utility mage. But
Mhm.
then people are playing him to just one shot the fuck out of people with massive damage because his utility actually wasn't that great.
Mhm.
And then they took away his damage and he had nothing. So now he's getting cooldown reduction for every 5 abilities cast. Raijin reduces the cooldown of all abilities currently on cooldown, including the one just cast by 1 second. Okay, a little bit of cooldown. But really, what they're doing here is they made it so his percussive storm is easier to hit.
Mhm.
That's his first ability that sends out two individual strikes, then a double strike, and they reduce the damage on all of them, but also greatly reduce the mana cost. So it's now just easier to hit, but less powerful. But what it is now that makes it easier to proc Raiju. So Raiju is now a damage over time,
Okay.
uh, and he does some good damage, but reduced scaling a little bit overall, but applies a 15% slow to the target you mark. So now they're slowed, which makes it easier to hit him with your one to actually
Mhm.
cause Raiju to go off. And then when he goes off, when he bounces to nearby allies, which he just like bounces around like crazy, it'll slow the allies, the enemies that get hit by that bounce by 15%, and the marked target then gets slowed by 30%.
Whoa.
And it got massive cooldown from 18% base to 15 scaling down to 11,
Yeah.
and decreased mana cost more because his mana is kind of an issue.
Yeah.
So now his utility is kind of getting solidified. Like, and his kit's less awkward. Before it was just really awkward trying to guarantee that Raiju damage.
Yeah, for sure.
And so now his damage is up more often, including the new cooldown passive, and it's
Yeah.
easier to apply, and he has some more utility with that. Thunder Crash, he's now targetable until he fades away. They made it so like you could just see him there, but you couldn't hurt him before he blinks. Now he's actually targetable. Um,
Okay. That's good.
it's really good because you can cancel his ability to crush away. I don't know how much that's gonna actually that's a pretty notable change because
Change.
that could
Yeah.
really hurt him. It allows you to lock him down a lot easier. And if
Yeah.
these other changes aren't enough to improve him, he could still be ass.
Yeah.
Taiko drums, his ult has reduced projectile speed, um, and the damage on the taunt and the fear has gone from 50% of base to 30% of the damage shot. That's a
Hmm.
huge hit.
Yeah.
But the fire duration went from 4.5 to 7 seconds. That's just 7 seconds of him being really easy to hit and kill.
Yeah.
To me, his ult's just a lot worse now. This is bad. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't necessarily need that extra time.
Yeah.
And now it's just harder to land the shots and they're less powerful. There is improved sound and visuals, so now the different strike forms have different colors and sounds.
That's good.
But I think overall, like Raijin's probably better, but I don't think this makes him good.
Mhm.
Especially in a late game meta, his scaling's all got reduced. He's not a
Right.
cannon.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't like. I feel like this is a nice step in the right direction, at least in some areas.
yeah, his kit was
Um,
too awkward.
but like he he's not gonna he's not coming back. At least not in any major way anytime soon.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, Sobek. His passive basically taking damage. He got bonus protections, but it only lasted for 3 seconds. Now it's doubled up to 6 seconds. This is good because Sobek can dash, and if he misses, he gets put out of position and bursted.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of risky. This makes him a little less risky. And the other thing too is like it could fall off while he's in his ult. Um,
Yeah.
now he's just safer in his ult. Um, it's just a nice
The
quality of life change.
yeah. This looks like a lot of changes to Susano.
Yeah. So before the problem with Susano, he got away way too easily. He was just too fucking fast.
Yeah.
Um, and so now they've made it his passive still stacks the same way it used to, but then um, oh wait, no. So when he does damage to an enemy god, he gets a stack. At 4 stacks, his next ability hits an enemy god will deal bonus damage. Um,
Okay.
it's just 25 plus scaling.
Mm-hmm.
So they've reduced the scaling and damage on Storm Kata, um, 10% scaling and 20 damage at max rank. So that's
Mm-hmm.
a pretty notable damage hit considering Stormkata applies that damage 3 different times and you're reducing that scaling. That's basically 30% scaling reduction and
Yeah.
60 damage. So this will help make up for that, but it also
Yeah.
makes it so he's just riskier. And it also makes it so you have to have a better understanding of how to auto cancel and play the character because auto canceling will stack that passive up faster. And just
Yeah.
being
As
that
opposed to just
mindless,
mashing your face on the
yeah,
keyboard.
low elo player who just pulls someone in and then storm katas them and that's all you do,
Yeah.
that's now no longer gonna kind of be how this works.
I like that.
Especially because the stacks only last for 5 seconds. So it's not like you can
Yeah.
stack it up then go into combat and use it. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to auto cancel to get that damage to apply while comboing someone.
Right.
Because if it's 4 stacks, you throw your three in, you pull them in, and then you storm kata them. You gotta like you have to make sure that you hit them with enough shit. So auto canceling will guarantee that.
Right.
Just making it so he's riskier, does a little less damage, and requires a little bit higher of a skill ceiling.
Yeah, for sure. He was incredibly safe before, so it's nice to see him have a little bit of, a risk reward situation going
Yeah,
on.
and it's nice to see a top tier character getting nerfed. Looking at Osiris, Krynos not getting
Yeah.
touched, Toph not getting
Oh,
touched.
yeah. I feel like we could make a whole nother video about that.
Yeah. So
uh,
last thing, finally there,
here we
Uller.
go.
Bladed Arrow and Thrown Axe get reduced mana cost. That's cool because I mean he's got mana issues. It might also, I don't know if it's enough of a change. I mean 20 at max rank. It's 40 between like the full kit. Yeah, maybe, but I still see him building into Transcendence, so I don't see that like affecting his build or anything. It's just quality of life.
Yeah.
But the big one is Expose Weakness, Invigorate. Expose Weakness is his 2 steroid in his bow form that basically didn't have much of a use because it was a 1 point wonder ability. You'd
Yeah.
only put 1 point into it and just start leveling everything else. But now
Whoa.
they've literally made it 2.5 times more effective at level 1 for a slight
Decrease at
reduction
the end.
of 10% in the last level, and they've reduced its cooldown. So now Exposed Weakness actually has some value to being used, and that reduced mana cost on Bladed Arrow will kind of make up for the fact that you will actually probably be popping Exposed Weakness now.
That's really cool. I like that. Um,
Yeah, because with Uller, I never even put a point in my 2 until I had to. I would just
yeah,
go
me
one
too.
three, 1 3, 1 3, 1 3, 1 3. Like now there's more of a character.
Yeah, for sure. Now there's more kit to have synergy. Awesome. Yeah. Wow, a lot. Holy crap.
Yeah, so like almost 2.5 hours later.
I'm really curious to go back into the YouTube analytics and like see if anyone even like how far people got
Yeah.
listening to this.
All right. Well, we should still close things out here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Well,
that's been our analysis of the patch notes.
mhm.
Um, go ahead and we'll have in the description the patch notes for yourself if you want to check them out. We'll also put a video on the patch for like patch note stuff with skins and all the bullshit we didn't go over that I personally don't care about. My friend, she does a bunch of videos basically just going over the patch or over the skins and all the patches and stuff that's just aesthetic and cosmetic stuff. So that'll be down there as well as our social media. Go ahead and check us out and thank you for watching.
Yeah, thanks guys. Hopefully see you again next time.